Chapter 464. Tan Lin obviously hoped that Lin Jin could achieve his wish of getting promoted to rank 4. After giving it some thought, she realized that Lin Jin's beast appraising skills had improved by leaps and bounds, so much so that it was unbelievable. Moreover, with her father's personality, he would never have written a recommendation letter if he didn't approve of Lin Jin. Hence, Tan Lin assumed that Lin Jin had the ability to get promoted to rank 4. This was a good thing. Appraiser Lin, is this your first time in Heavenly Jade City? Let me show you around. This place deserves its reputation as the #1 city in Zhongzhou. Tan Lin had encountered many good things today. Not only did an old friend visit her, but she had also unexpectedly become the disciple of Mr. Zhong, the leading beast appraiser. She felt that she had to celebrate today. Tan Lin's personality was like this. She would do whatever came to her mind. To put it bluntly, she was just being a little rash. Seeing how insistent she was, Lin Jin didn't say much. After all, they were old friends, and it was only natural for them to spend more time together. Right, I bumped into Master Gu on my way here, so I came with him. He's waiting outside now, Lin Jin suddenly said. Tan Lin and Master Gu knew each other too. After all, Tan Sun and Gu Mengzhong were old friends in Jade Dragon City. Since the three of them were familiar with each other, it wouldn't be awkward for them to meet up. However, Li Xinqi was clamoring to tag along, so Tan Lin had no choice but to bring her along. Following Tan Lin and Li Xinqi, Lin Jin finally made it out of Heavenly Jade Academy. Tan Lin told him that the first time she came here, she got lost in Heavenly Jade Academy as well. Admittedly, the academy was huge. Lin Jin knew that this wasn't the only problem. When he came out earlier, he noticed that every student in Heavenly Jade Academy had a jade token on them. It was a student beast jade. The jade material wasn't precious, just the average kind. However, the craftsmanship was decent. Most importantly, it contained a unique spirit energy. This spirit energy was so weak that those with lower cultivation levels wouldn't even notice it. From Lin Jin's perspective, the student jade was used to break a race. To put it bluntly, the entire Heavenly Jade Academy seemed ordinary, but in fact, it was arranged according to some kind of array. The grass, trees, and pavilions inside were all very particular. The patterns on the surface, and even some seemingly inconspicuous stone blocks, may be part of the array. Previously, Lin Jin didn't have the time to react when he got lost. But ever since he met Li Xinqi, that didn't happen again. In other words, the student jade could restrain the formation. If an outsider were to barge into the Heavenly Jade Academy, they would not be able to get out in a short amount of time. This could be regarded as a hidden defensive measure of the Heavenly Jade Academy, and from this, one could see the foundation of the academy. This was incredible. However, Lin Jin didn't ask about it in detail. After exiting the palace, he went to look for Gu Mengzhong, and the four of them toured around Tianxin City. Tan Lin and Li Xinqi were obviously leading the way. After that, they went to a rather famous restaurant and ate a table full of delicious dishes before parting ways. Tan Lin and Li Xinqi returned to the academy, while Lin Jin and Gu Mengzhong found an inn to stay in. As the sky darkened, Lin Jin yawned and said to Gu Mengzhong, "Master Gu, it's been a long journey, and I still have to go to headquarters early tomorrow. Let's get some rest." Gu Mengzhong nodded as well. He was really tired. After all, he was too old, and he had been drunk every day recently. His body couldn't take it anymore, so he nodded and went back to his room to rest. Soon, snoring could be heard. However, Lin Jin didn't seem the least bit tired. In terms of ability and cultivation, he was far, far stronger than Gu Mengzhong. Forget the exhaustion he had experienced over the past few days. Lin Jin wouldn't feel tired even if it was several times heavier. Lin Jin had only said that to let Gu Mengzhong rest earlier. There was something he needed to do. This matter could lead to danger and conflict. It could even lead to death. Seeing that Lin Jin was about to leave, Senior Mo was eager to give it a try. However, Lin Jin's next words made the old dragon wilt. "Old Mo, you stay here too. Don't wander around and cultivate the cultivation method I taught you. Today's incantation is the first 3 parts of transfiguration. Cultivate it carefully and try to transform into a human as soon as possible, Lin Jin instructed with a straight face. Despite being 200 years old, Senior Mo didn't dare to disobey Lin Jin's orders. It could only stay in the inn obediently. After Lin Jin settled down, he leaped out of the window. Although his movements weren't exactly graceful, he was at least able to stay silent. With his previous cultivation, internalizing energy and strengthening muscles, coupled with the strength of his blood contract, Lin Jin could now leap onto roofs and vault over walls easily. He was going to look for the local gangsters who tried to scam him during the day. That young master, the bald innkeeper, and the others might be related to the Demonic Appraisal Association. They might even be members of the association themselves. Lin Jin had to get to the bottom of this. He left a needle in the bald innkeeper's body. Invoking a spell, Lin Jin immediately sensed the needle's location and rushed over under the cover of the night. Tianxian City was indeed huge and bustling with activity. Even at night, some places were crowded and bustling with activity. Lin Jin stood at the entrance of an alley. There was a wooden sign at the entrance that read Green Willow Alley. This was the name of the alley. Looking inside, Lin Jin could see that the alley was brightly lit, and there were even willow trees in the alley. Willow leaves accompanied by candles and lanterns. One could vaguely hear singing and dancing, eavesdrop on the pipa, and a drunken young master reciting poetry. Lin Jin noticed a piece of calligraphy hanging in front of an embroidery building up ahead. It was a nameless poem written by a bored scholar. Speaking of which, although the poem wasn't much, it did give a vivid description of Green Willow Alley. This place was probably a place where the rich spent their money. The needle's aura was inside, so naturally, the bald innkeeper was inside as well. Lin Jin smiled before invoking a spell to cast a camouflage spell. Then he stepped inside. Lin Jin didn't know if he could gain anything today, but no matter what, he had to find out more about the local gangsters during the day. If they were members of the Demonic Appraisal Association, Lin Jin might have a chance to follow the clues and find out where the association's headquarters were. Once he found out, Lin Jin planned to eliminate them. The Demonic Appraisal Association's branch in Reed City was just that ruthless. Who knew how many people they had harmed? More importantly, they almost killed Shang'er and White Ape. Ignoring the noble act of enforcing justice, Lin Jin had every reason to get rid of them out of personal grudges. Lin Jin was a narrow-minded person. Those who dared to lay their hands on the people around him had to bear the consequences. With the camouflage spell, although Green Willow Alley was bustling with pedestrians, no one noticed Lin Jin. Even the gorgeously dressed women in front of the embroidery buildings on both sides of the street didn't notice Lin Jin passing by. Chapter 465. This was the advantage of spellcasting. Under camouflage, Lin Jin didn't exist in the eyes of these mortals. Arriving at a wooden building with a sign that read Auspicious Residence, Lin Jin stopped in front of it. This is the place. Lin Jin glanced at the luxurious 4-story wooden building before stepping inside. The two burly men guarding the entrance acted as if they couldn't see Lin Jin at all, allowing him to walk in. These two men were just regular folks, so they obviously couldn't see through Lin Jin's camouflage. Once inside, Lin Jin realized that Auspicious Residence was a high-end restaurant. Everything inside was exquisitely decorated, and the waitresses in charge of serving the dishes and pouring the wine were all young ladies. They were scantily clad, and the fragrance of meat permeated the air. To some, this place was like heaven. The first floor was spacious with at least 8 to 9 tables. Not all of them were occupied, as there were only 2 or 3 tables occupied, but they seemed to be either wealthy or of high status. Their pet beasts were also lying by the side, and some of them looked like ferocious beasts. Lin Jin's camouflage might be able to fool human eyes, but not beast senses. Just like now. Sensing something, a male lion abruptly looked up at Lin Jin. However, in the next moment, a monstrous wave of pressure swept over. The lion had just raised its head when it felt as if it had been struck by lightning. It immediately fainted. Lin Jin looked embarrassed. He seemed to have used too much force earlier, as the rank 3 lion's eyes rolled back, and he fainted. Speaking of which, this lion did have sharp senses. With 3 eyes and 4 ears, it must belong to some rare beast whose senses far surpassed regular beasts. That was how it managed to see through Lin Jin's camouflage. Lin Jin was only trying to suppress the lion, but who knew he would use too much force? But so what if it fainted? After all, the lion couldn't possibly say anything or complain about Lin Jin. When the lion's owner saw his pet beast fainting for no reason, he jumped in fright and became nervous. His friends at the same table came up to him, and the other diners on the first floor were attracted as well. Meanwhile, Lin Jin was already on his way up the stairs to the second floor. Just then, a voice came from the second floor. "What happened on the first floor? Let's go down and take a look." Soon, a man came down from the second floor and looked down. He was only a few feet away from Lin Jin. Lin Jin recognized this man. He was one of the scammers today. Hence, he had come to the right place. The man couldn't even see Lin Jin, who was just inches away from him. He only glanced down before going back. Lin Jin immediately followed behind him, his footsteps synchronized with the man's. He lifted the curtains and entered a private room. "Manager, it's nothing. One of the customer's pet beasts passed out for some reason." "It's not a big deal." The man clearly didn't think much of it. "What's the matter?" There were 2 large tables in the room, and the ball manager they met earlier was there too. Not only him, but his subordinates were also standing beside him. Lin Jin's eyes of Lin Jin shone of him of the table. Why did he suddenly faint? "The few of you, go down and take a look. Today, the big boss is going to entertain an extremely important guest. Absolutely nothing can go wrong. If it doesn't work, get someone to chase them away." The bald shopkeeper's face was full of vigilance. By Lin of them, of the Jin of his subordinates, of the man, of Shanzuf, of the men. At this moment, there was only the bald shopkeeper in the private room. However, he was also standing at the side, as if waiting for someone. From their conversation just now, this could be confirmed. The big boss that the other party mentioned was the eccentric young master from today. Lin Jin's curiosity was piqued. He had only come here to try his luck. Who knew he would actually gain something? Since that was the case, he might as well wait here and see if the person who came was from the Demonic Appraisal Association. Lin Jin looked around. There was a chair in the corner of the room. He walked over and sat on it silently. He waited. The bald manager had no idea that there was an extra person in the room. He was visibly nervous. During this time, Auspicious's owner seemed to have come in to chat with him, saying that the dishes were already prepared. Once the guest arrived, the dishes could be served immediately. The bald manager quickly thanked him and reminded him of a few things to take note of. "Don't worry. We've been friends for many years, so I wouldn't scam you at a time like this." The owner chuckled and left to prepare the dishes. Soon, the bald manager's subordinates returned. "Manager, there's no problem. One of our customers' pet beasts fainted and has woken up now. That customer has brought him to the Beast Appraisal Association." Hearing this, the bald shopkeeper finally felt relieved. Keep your eyes peeled and be more observant later. The people Jean has invited today are people we can't afford to offend. Understood. Don't worry. It's not the first time we've been following you around. It's good that you understand. Instead of sitting down, the men simply stood there and waited. Lin Jin was curious as to what kind of guest would be here today. He was bold because of his skills. If it were anyone else, they probably wouldn't have the guts to sit here so openly. Lin Jin was confident in camouflage. He had derived this spell from some books and Cloud Sec's Old Taoist. Most people wouldn't be able to see through it. Forget the average person, even a skilled expert wouldn't be able to notice Lin Jin's presence, as long as it wasn't a rare beast with unique sensory abilities. Of course, this wasn't absolute. If it was a spellcasting expert, or someone who knew how to use camouflage, they would still be able to notice it. It was as the saying went, those who know how to use camouflage. It didn't take long for Lin Jin to hear footsteps coming up the stairs. And it wasn't just one person either. Lin Jin held his breath and focused. On the other side, the bald shopkeeper had already been alerted. At this moment, he hastily pulled open the curtains and respectfully welcomed the few people upstairs. Boss, everything is ready, the bald manager said to a young man who had just entered. The bald shopkeeper said to a young master who just came in. This young master was the androgynous young master from earlier in the day. At this moment, the young master nodded his head and let a few people in. Senior Zhou, Elder Yi, please come in. Also, Lord Chu, it's been a few years since we last met. You look as elegant as ever. The young man was polite, but due to his feminine appearance, he looked a little odd. If it weren't for his Adam's apple and his flat chest, those who didn't know better would have mistaken him for a woman in male attire. Ah, Boss G, aren't you enjoying the limelight too? I, on the other hand, almost lost my life in that tiny jade dragon kingdom, said Chu Xiangzhu, who came in after Ji Yinshu. This man looked ordinary and his clothes were inconspicuous. He looked just like a common peddler in the streets. However, there was a hint of viciousness and cunning in his eyes. It was obvious that he wasn't a pushover. Chapter 466. At the mention of the Jade Dragon Kingdom, Lin Jin raised an eyebrow and studied Chu Xiangzhu carefully. However, he had never met this man before. If you have anything to say, let's talk while we eat. I'm starving. Another middle-aged man was dressed in a luxurious robe. His attire was quite impressive. As for the other elderly man, he was holding a walking stick with a snake head. He chuckled without saying a word. If one looked closely, they would find that the snake head on the walking stick in his hand was actually alive. It was constantly hissing and flicking its scarlet tongue. Come, have a seat. The young master invited the three to sit down. The bald innkeeper had already rushed out to serve the dishes. His subordinates tactfully retreated and stood guard outside. Now, only the young master and his companions were left in the private room. No, and Lin Jin. By now, Lin Jin could tell that the old man's walking stick was unusual. It was a unique pet beast, and if he wasn't mistaken, this strange snake was probably a rank 4 beast. If he had the chance, Lin Jin really wanted to study this thing. He wanted to know how it was made, or if it was some form of that beast. A walking stick? That sounded strange. What they said next confirmed the identities of these 4 people. Our Demonic Appraisal Association has been expanding recently. We've already established branches in various countries in Continent Central. In terms of strength, we might not be any weaker than the Beast Appraisal Association. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man who was complaining about his hunger. This man had a huge appetite, and more than half of the dishes that had just been served ended up in his mouth. The Demonic Appraisal Association. Sure enough, Lin Jin could tell that this middle-aged man had used the Beastmaster Scroll to keep his pet beast inside his body. However, it might have been inside his stomach or mouth, because when a man was eating, he revealed a mouthful of sharp teeth. Those weren't teeth a human could have. More importantly, Lin Jin could tell that the man was cultivating the Beastmaster Scroll, because none of the Beastmaster Scrolls he knew so far could cause the owner of a blood contract to reveal such a bestial appearance. However, after considering that they were all members of the Demonic Appraisal Association, Lin Jin understood. The methods employed by the Demonic Appraisal Association were uncanny, so this combination of human and beast might very well be the result of some secret technique they possessed. From this point of view, the only one who seemed normal was Chu Xiangzhu. Coincidentally, the man started talking as well. He was mainly talking about how he managed to escape from the Jade Dragon Kingdom. Upon hearing this, Lin Jin immediately realized that he had hit the jackpot. This person was the culprit who stole the wooden token from the Qiao family in Reed City and tricked Yin, the monk from Daluo Temple, and the Exorcist Hall's rector to deal with White Ape and Shang. You can wear out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it effortlessly. Lin Jin was currently expressionless, his gaze cold. No matter how things developed today, Lin Jin had no intention of letting this man go. Now that he had found it, he had to destroy it. Lord Chu was still oblivious to the fact that Lin Jin had his eyes on him. He was still explaining. Our development in Reed City was going well, so we could gradually infiltrate other parts of Jade Dragon Country. Who knew we would run into a maleficent existence? Lord Chu took a deep breath, his expression filled with hatred. I heard about it too. Our branch in Jade Dragon Kingdom was destroyed. Who is it? From now on, the Demonic Appraisal Association will never forgive him, the noble young master said. The others nodded in agreement. I've heard about that person. His name is Lin Jean, and he's the chief of Maple City's Beast Appraisal Association in Jade Dragon Country. Lord Chu's eyes were filled with hatred. The chief of a small city's Beast Appraisal Association is at most a rank 2 beast appraiser. How could he possibly destroy one of our branches? Elder Yi, who was holding a snake staff, questioned. The others were equally suspicious, including the noble young master. Lord Chu smirked. Elder Yi, if he's only a rank 2 beast appraiser, he definitely wouldn't be able to do so. But that Lin Jean isn't a rank 2 beast appraiser. He's a rank 3 beast appraiser. A rank 3 beast appraiser is indeed difficult to deal with, but that's not to the extent of, I'm not done yet. Lord Chu put down his chopsticks. This Lin Jean doesn't come from an ordinary background. I've looked into his background and found out that he rose too quickly. Back then, he was just an ordinary kid. Without anyone's support, he couldn't have risen so quickly. Later on, I found out that the person behind him is someone called Curator. Curator? Some were confused while others fell in a deep thought. Clearly, some knew of this name while others didn't. Let's talk about Lin Jean first. He's now the #1 beast appraiser in Jade Dragon Country, and no one can rival him. Not only did he destroy our Jade Dragon Country's branch, but he also somehow discovered our spy in the association and killed him. It's Yang Qingshi. Elder Ye's eyes widened in disbelief. It was obvious that he knew Yang Qingshi. That's right. Lord Chu nodded. Yang Qingshi is a remarkable man. He seems to have received some kind of inheritance and knows many strange spells. The Reversed Fate Beast King Sutra was gifted to our Demonic Appraiser Association by him. Everyone here knows how powerful this blood contract cultivation is. Zhou Wang, you're cultivating the Reversed Fate Beast King Sutra, and you've successfully fused a rank 4 Cloud Tiger into your body. Even in the ancient era of immortals, you're considered a remarkable physical cultivator. Zhou Wang was the man in embroidered robes who had been gorging himself earlier. He nodded. That's right. The Reversed Fate Beast King Sutra is indeed remarkable. Now, I'm the beast, and the beast is me. This feeling is indescribable. The only problem is that my appetite is like a beast's. I have to eat 8 meals a day. Having said that, he swallowed half a chicken. Those sharp teeth were like a tiger's as he swallowed the chicken in the blink of an eye. Yang Qingshi has been a member of the Demonic Appraisal Association for a few years now. His background is a mystery, but we can't deny that he has contributed greatly to our association. Now that Lin Jean has killed Yang Qingshi, the Demonic Appraisal Association won't let the matter rest. Lin Jean is dead meat, Lord Chu said. Everyone agreed with him, but at the same time, they had other thoughts. However, the curator behind Lin Jean isn't simple either. This curator is extremely mysterious, and his background is a mystery. He rarely makes a move, but every time he does, it's earth-shattering. I heard that the first time he made a move was in Jade Dragon City, where he killed the old dragon deity who ruled Jade Dragon Kingdom. Lord Chu was clearly well-informed as he recounted these matters with great familiarity. You might not know about him killing the old dragon deity, but there's no way you wouldn't know about him barging into Daluo Temple alone, Lord Chu added. Chapter 467. I was the one who plotted this by accident. At that time, I happened to run into the monks of Daluo Temple at Mount Long Pass, so I played a small trick and killed them with a borrowed knife. Those monks really went to capture the monster, which gave me the opportunity to retrieve the Qiao family's wooden token, said Chu Xiangzhu. But what happened after that was beyond my expectations. First, Lin Jean had several powerful monsters by his side, and second, that curator was able to overpower Daluo Temple. I even heard that curator wore a mask with animal patterns on it. Ever since that Dowlord rose to power 500 years ago, many have tried to imitate him, and curator must be one of them. He could tell that this Chu Xiangzhu was very proud of his quick-wittedness and cleverness. Let's put curator's matter aside for now. We still need to investigate his background. But that Lin Jin must be killed by the Demonic Appraisal Society. Lord Chu, although the hall in Jade Dragon Country has been destroyed, you've done a great service. After all, you managed to retrieve the Daelord's wooden token. This item is extremely important, so our efforts weren't in vain, Elder Yi said with a smile. I heard that the Daelord's wooden token hides a huge secret. Chu Xiang, why don't you show it to us? Zhou Wen grinned after eating an entire table full of dishes. When he was almost full, he grinned. Chu Xiang shook his head. Unfortunately, I've already offered it to the Black Emissary. It's probably in the chief's hands by now. When the others heard this, their expressions changed, but they didn't ask any further about this matter. The Demonic Appraisal Society was huge, and its internal structure was complicated. But the leader at the top was obvious. The chief of the Demonic Appraisal Society. He was the highest existence in the Demonic Appraisal Society and a top-notch expert with unfathomable strength. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to establish the Demonic Appraisal Society and form its own faction that could influence many countries. Under the chief were the black and white emissaries. There were also existences that couldn't be provoked. Aha! Chu Xiang, you've done such a great service. Didn't Lord Black Emissary reward you? Elder Yi asked. Chu Xiang pondered for a moment before taking out a bone ring. The Black Emissary has promoted me to the Dark Hall's Hall Master. When they saw the bone ring, other than Elder Yi, Zhou Wang and the noble young master revealed looks of envy and jealousy. Evidently, the position of the Dark Hall's Hall Master was above theirs. Moreover, the main responsibility of the Dark Hall's Hall Master was to mobilize the Demonic Appraisal Association's forces and eradicate dissidents. To put it bluntly, they were the Demonic Appraisal Association's sword, a sword that killed. Everyone, are you willing to help me kill Lin Jin? Chu Xiang, he was now Hall Master Chu. Perhaps because of his promotion, he was in high spirits. Several other people know that this time the members of the society who stayed in Tianxin City gathered together because of this matter. If it was before, they would help if they wanted to, and if they didn't want to, no one would dare to say that they are wrong. But things were different now. The fact that Hall Master Chu took out the bone ring meant that the Dark Hall was issuing an order. Even though it was a polite question, it was still an order. He had no choice but to agree. This was the rule of the Demonic Appraisal Association. Out of the other 3 people present, Zhou Wang grinned eerily, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth. That Lin Jin went against the Demonic Appraisal Association, so of course we have to kill him. More importantly, he killed Yang Qingshi. Who doesn't know that I benefited from Yang Qingshi? If I don't avenge him, how will my brothers in the association look at me? The half-human, half-beast, Zhou Wang, was the first to express his stance. And he was resolute. Elder Yi laughed. Isn't it just killing a greenhorn? It's no big deal. Count me in then. Just treat it as a way to relax. It was obvious that this Elder Yi was confident in his strength and did not take this matter to be a big deal. Only an androgynous, noble young master was left. He glanced at Hall Master Chu, but didn't agree immediately. Instead, he asked, Hall Master Chu, do you have a plan? At this, the other 2 turned to look at Hall Master Chu. The plan was important. Although they didn't think much of Lin Jin, they knew that Lin Jin's ability to destroy the Jade Dragon Kingdom branch and kill Yang Qingshi was a testament to his strength. After all, the Demonic Appraisal Association wasn't powerful enough to cover the sky with one hand, and Lin Jin was quite capable too. Hence, ensuring the success of this operation became a priority. My plan is to first head to Maple City, where Lin Jin is, and lure him out before setting up a trap in the city. I've already asked Envoy Black for a myriad corpse explosion talisman. Once we give this talisman to Lin Jin's trusted aide, if he goes back to save someone, he will definitely fall for it. Even if he doesn't die immediately, he will be heavily injured after coming in contact with the poisonous gas. Once that happens, killing him will be as easy as pie for all of you here. When the others heard this, they all sucked in a breath of air. Venomous. How freaking venomous. This guy's surname Chu was indeed not a good person. No matter what he did, he liked to use underhanded methods. He would never fight openly with others. It was no wonder he was able to climb up the ranks so quickly in the Demonic Appraisal Association. But to be honest, this plan was great and safe. As long as it was carried out, it would definitely succeed. Hall Master Chu was someone who was willing to use treasures. The Toxic Corpse Explosion Talisman wasn't something to be scoffed at. Even in the Demonic Appraisal Association, it was an extremely rare item. That's a great plan. Elder Yi smiled, agreeing with the plan. It was clearly a safe plan and sounded like it would succeed. Most importantly, there wouldn't be any danger involved. Although Elder Yi said he looked down on Lin Jin and thought that he was nothing much, he knew that Lin Jin was no pushover if he was able to kill Yang Qingshi. He had met Yang Qingshi once and knew that the man had a terrifying and mysterious existence backing him up. Something like the Reverse Beast King scripture couldn't be something anyone could come up with on a whim. There must be an unbelievably powerful entity behind this. But even so, Yang Qingshi was still dead. Hence, Lin Jin wasn't easy to deal with. But with Hall Master Chu's plan, Lin Jin's death was certain. No one could withstand the power of the Toxic Corpse Explosion Talisman. Even if Lin Jin survived the first wave of attacks, he wouldn't be able to survive the rest. Let alone a human. Even a legendary immortal would definitely die under this chain of attacks. There is absolutely no possibility of survival. The others nodded in agreement. All right, if that's the case, we'll move out tomorrow. This time, we must eliminate this Lin Jin to prevent any future troubles. Come, let me toast first. Hall Master Chu raised his glass and drained it in one gulp, as if celebrating in advance. He was confident that this operation would succeed. The others laughed heartily and raised their glasses as well. After eating for a while more, the few of them finally had enough to eat and drink and left. Since they were going to depart tomorrow, they needed to rest and prepare themselves. However, never in their wildest dreams did they imagine that the person they were plotting to eliminate had been sitting on a chair in the corner of this private room, listening to their entire plan. Chapter 468. Lin Jin's expression darkened. It was extremely ugly. The Demonic Appraisal Association was truly vicious. If Lin Jin hadn't coincidentally stumbled upon those scammers and happened to be here, he would never have known that they were plotting against him. When that happened, Lin Jin would definitely be at a disadvantage. Although they might not necessarily succeed, there was no doubt that some of his friends and family in Maple City would be in trouble. This was something Lin Jin didn't wish to see. And so Lin Jin smiled. Since he had coincidentally stumbled upon this scene, it must be fate. Truth be told, he had wanted to make a move earlier, but he didn't. It was simple. The 4 members of the Demonic Appraisal Association weren't simple people. Lin Jin wasn't confident that he could take on all 4 of them at the same time. Moreover, if things got out of hand, the other experts in Merak City might be alerted. This was a premium country after all. Hence, he had to be cautious. Fortunately, Lin Jin didn't move a muscle throughout the entire process. He held his breath and focused, using a well-practiced camouflage technique to fool the 4 without exposing himself. Otherwise, if he was exposed, he would have to make a move. Now, the initiative was in Lin Jin's hands. He had a large amount of information, and he was in the dark while the enemies were out in the open. If he still didn't take action, Lin Jin might as well kill himself with a piece of tofu. He had made up his mind. He would kill these 4 people. Of course, he would take them down one by one. The first one he had to eliminate was Hall Master Chu. Among the 4 of them, Lin Jin had to kill this man. At this, Lin Jin got up and hurried out. The 4 people hadn't left Green Willow Alley yet. Once they did, they would surely split up and go their separate ways. But now, there was another problem. Since he had to take them down one by one, Lin Jin could only deal with one person at a time. That way, he would definitely lose track of the others. This was a problem. These 4 people weren't like minions. If Lin Jin used his needles, he was afraid that they would notice. If they did, Lin Jin's plan would immediately fail. After some thought, Lin Jin figured that he could follow one of them, and the first one had to be Hall Master Chu. The culprit was the one who wanted to deal with Lin Jin. The needles he left on the bald shopkeeper could help Lin Jin locate that young master. At the very least, he could follow this clue. With this, Lin Jin could lock onto the other two's whereabouts. But that Elder Yi and Zhou Wang were in trouble. Both of them weren't to be trifled with. Both of them had rank 4 pet beasts. Zhou Wang had completely fused with his pet beast, becoming a half-human, half-beast monster. Elder Yi was even more impressive. Lin Jin could sense the presence of 2 rank 4 beasts on him. In other words, other than the rank 4 snake staff in his hand, he had another rank 4 beast. I really don't know how this old fellow controls it. The demonic appraiser's skills were indeed impressive. Many of them were mysterious and inexplicable. As an expert in beast appraising, Lin Jin could clearly sense that Elder Yi had formed a blood pact with 2 rank 4 pet beasts. It wasn't control or suppression, but a blood contract. However, blood contracts could only be formed with one ferocious beast. How did the other party do it? Even Lin Jin couldn't figure out what was going on. Perhaps by probing with a needle and touching Elder Yi with his hand, he would be able to uncover this secret. Lin Jin trusted the Museum of Deadly Beasts. But Lin Jin couldn't do that back then. Again, if he had acted rashly, he would have been discovered by those 4. This secret can only be slowly explored in the future. Lin Jin wasn't an indecisive person. After realizing that he might not be able to kill all 4 of them today, he made up his mind. He would kill 2 of them first. Kill one. Most importantly, Hall Master Chu had to die. After Chu Chi exited Green Willow Alley, he immediately boarded a carriage that had been parked at the entrance of the alley. The carriage soon left. Somewhere in Tianxian Royal City, Chu Chi alighted and blended into the crowd. By now, Chu Chi had changed his appearance. He had changed his clothes, changed his hat, and even grew a thick beard. He looked like a completely different person. Chu Chi was a cautious person. When he joined the Demonic Appraisal Association, he was just an ordinary member with nothing special about him. However, he was smart and ruthless enough to quickly gain a foothold in the association. Back in the Jade Dragon Kingdom's Reed City branch, he was an influential figure, and Chu Chi wanted to be careful. Hence, he never stayed in the branch. Instead, he hid among the people like an ordinary person, because he knew that being ordinary was the best thing he could rely on. Moreover, Chu Chi kept a low profile. He didn't care about fame and fortune. All he cared about was practical benefits. Back at Reed City, after learning that the branch had been destroyed by Lin Jin, he kept his composure and continued to lie low, waiting for an opportunity to strike. And sure enough, the opportunity came. He encountered a monk from Daluo Temple and used the tactic of borrowing someone else's knife to successfully obtain the Daelord's wooden token from the Qiao family. After he succeeded, he began to flee. Although he was almost caught and killed, he was lucky enough to escape in the end. Using the Daelord's wooden token, Chu Chi made great contributions to the Demonic Appraisal Association. Now, his status skyrocketed, and he became the Hall Master of the Dark Hall. However, he still kept a low profile, because he knew that no matter what he did, the more he kept a low profile, the longer he could live. He had a place to stay in Tianxian Royal City. Other than himself, no one else knew about it. Not even his brothers in the Dark Hall knew about it. This had always been Chu Chi's way of doing things. He could not be more careful. He spent some time making twists and turns before finally arriving at an extremely inconspicuous house. Then, he entered through the back door. This was where he lived. It was just like any other house in Tianxian City. Chu Chi kept a hound beast in the yard. It was also an ordinary beast. Chu Chi kept this pet to warn him if someone tried to sneak in. After entering the house, Chu Chi lay down comfortably and began to think about what to do tomorrow. Suddenly, Chu Chi sensed that something was off. He hadn't heard the hound beast barking since the beginning. Logically speaking, a hound beast that had been starving for an entire day should be making some noise. "Where's the dog? Bark at me," Chu Chi shouted. Under normal circumstances, the dogs outside would bark, but at this time, there was no movement outside at all. *T. Chu Chi was a cautious person, so how could he not know that something was wrong? He immediately got up, but as soon as he did so, he felt as if his neck was being pricked by a needle. Then he couldn't move. Upon closer inspection, one could see Snake's scales moving on his body, as if he was casting some kind of spell. Unfortunately, he was one step too slow. Chapter 469. Chu-Chi was terrified. In the next moment, his pupil shrank because he saw that there was another person in the room. He had never seen this person before, but he had seen his portrait. Therefore, his heart sank almost immediately, and his face was full of fear. Lin Jin, why are you here? Chu-Chi couldn't move at all. He couldn't even speak properly. The person who suddenly appeared in the house was none other than Lin Jin. After following Chu-Chi all the way here, Lin Jin finally found Chu-Chi's lair. Lin Jin took a sip of the tea on the table before smiling. Hall Master Chu, you're the Hall Master of the Demonic Appraisal Association's Dark Hall. I didn't expect you to live in such poverty. A small courtyard with 2 rundown rooms. How destitute. Upon hearing this, Chu-Chi's fingers trembled. He was no fool. His promotion to the Dark Hall's Hall Master had only happened today, and he had never told anyone about it. Other than Envoy Black and Elder Yi, no one else knew about it. How did Lin Jin find out? The answer was obvious. If one of the other 3 hadn't told anyone about it, Chu-Chi must have been following him all the way here. In fact, he had been following him since the dinner. How'd he do it? Chu-Chi didn't dare to delve deeper into these questions. He knew that his life was hanging by a thread. One wrong move, and he might not live to see tomorrow's sun. Appraiser Lin, let's talk this out. Please don't. Chu-Chi begged for mercy, trembling. He was ruthless, but he was also afraid of death. Lin Jin didn't make a move immediately. If he wanted to, he would have killed Chu-Chi when he flicked his needles earlier. He only spared Chu-Chi's life because Lin Jin had questions to ask him. Tell me everything you know about the Demonic Appraisal Association. Listen up. If you hide anything from me or lie to me, you know what will happen to you. Lin Jin toyed with the teacup in his hand. Although the courtyard was simple, many of the items in the house were expensive. This teacup alone was a treasure that would cost at least a few hundred taels each. It seemed like Hall Master Chu liked to keep a low profile and enjoy life. This was even better. Such a person was even more unwilling to die. Chu-Chi hesitated. It was true that he knew quite a bit about the Demonic Appraisal Association, but he also knew their rules. If his enemies found out about this, he would be done for. Lin Jin smiled. With a flick of his finger, a silver needle pierced into the man's body, shattering one of his veins. The immense pain caused Chu-Chi to break out in a cold sweat, and his facial features to contort. He had a blood contract pet beast inside him, but right now, he couldn't mobilize the contract's power at all. Meanwhile, the venomous snake seemed to be dead, showing no reaction. No doubt this was all Lin Jin's doing. Chu-Chi, whose entire body was trembling in pain, finally understood that his life was in the hands of the other party. If he wanted to live, he had to say something. Otherwise, he would not be able to get through today. Of course, Chu-Chi was also very clear that even if he told them, he might not be able to get through this. However, the problem was that if he told them, he could still delay them for a while. If he didn't tell them, he would probably die immediately. Thus, Chu-Chi began to tell them everything he knew. Lin Jin listened carefully. Combining the information he overheard in the private room, he now had a deep understanding of the Demonic Appraisal Association. The Demonic Appraisal Association was much larger and more deeply rooted than he had imagined. Chu-Chi had only just become the Hall Master of the Dark Hall. He knew that the Demonic Appraisal Association had many higher-ups in Heavenly Jade. For example, Black Messenger was in Heavenly Jade City. As for White Messenger and the Demonic Appraisal Association's true chief, Chu-Chi had no idea where they were. Although he had seen Black Messenger before, the man was wearing a black mask, so he couldn't tell if he was a man or a woman, young or old. However, Chu-Chi knew the location of the Dark Hall's branch in Heavenly Jade City. Chu-Chi was forced to spill everything he knew. The process wasn't that smooth either. Lin Jin couldn't guarantee that everything Chu-Chi said would be true. There might even be a trap somewhere. It's about time. Lin Jin put down the teacup in his hand and looked at the moon outside. It was getting late, and Lin Jin had a lot of things to do tonight, so he couldn't afford to waste too much time here. Lin Jin had gotten his hands on Chu Chi's 1,000-corpse explosion talisman. This talisman was clearly extraordinary, and it was the key for Chu Chi to deal with Lin Jin. And now, it was in Lin Jin's hands. Lin Jin had already learned how to activate it from Chu Chi. Lin Jin strode out without so much as a glance at Chu Chi. The latter was secretly delighted, thinking that he had dodged a bullet. However, as soon as Lin Jin stepped out of the room, he felt a sharp pain in his head. He shuddered as if he was having a cramp before collapsing to the ground dead. A silver needle flew out, pierced through the window, and flew into Lin Jin's sleeve. Lin Jin had already refined these needles. There were more than 100 of them, and each of them was extremely valuable. The culprit, Chu Chi, had been killed. Lin Jin didn't think he was cruel or unreasonable. If he didn't kill Chu Chi would have killed him. With how secluded this yard was, Lin Jin reckoned that Chu Chi's body would only be discovered dead after daybreak. Lin Jin didn't purposely deal with Chu Chi's body. Since the demonic appraisers wanted to deal with him, he might as well declare war on them, starting now. Somewhere on a street in Heavenly Jade City, there were many casinos. Although it was late at night, there were still people who were addicted to gambling under the candlelight, never getting tired of it. There was a lot of silver on the table. Most of them were silver fragments, but there were also silver ingots. At a glance, there were at least several thousand taels of silver. Several bare-chested gamblers were holding 2 porcelain bowls together and shaking the dice crazily. Outside, the bald man walked in. "Manager Wei, you're here." "Good day, manager." Many people greeted him when they saw him. The bald manager kept a straight face and said to the crowd, "It's getting late. Let's call it a day. You're all dismissed." The strong men watching over the place quickly dismissed the gamblers. They knew that Manager Wei must have something to tell them. "Call our brothers over." Sure enough, the bald manager made the necessary arrangements. Not long after, more than a dozen burly men were squeezed into this small room. The slightly dim candlelight couldn't see their faces clearly. The bald shopkeeper didn't waste any time and directly said, "Tomorrow, Big Boss is going out of the courtyard. I want to go with him. In addition, I need to find a few good brothers to go with me. Who wants to come?" The dozen or so men were stunned and didn't say anything for a while. Since the manager said he was going out on an errand, it couldn't be anything ordinary, so it was better to be cautious. The bald manager didn't mind. "If you guys aren't saying anything, I'll call the roll. Old 3, you'll be following me." After the bald manager said that, a dark-skinned man nodded. "Yes, manager." "Second brother Shui, you too." "Yes." "Erqing, you too." A young man nodded. "While the big boss and I are gone, keep an eye on the betting stalls. Don't cause any trouble. If you run into any trouble, wait until we're back." "Got it, manager." At this time, a gust of wind blew from nowhere, and the candle in the room was extinguished. In an instant, the room was plunged into darkness. Just when Manager Wei was about to speak, he heard a strange sound as if a lot of people fell to the ground. Chapter 470. What's going on? Why did the lights go out? Who left the F***king door open? Shopkeeper Wei was feeling guilty, not only because of the darkness brought by the extinguished candle, but also because of the noise he heard earlier. More importantly, he hoped to hear a response from his subordinates. But what made his heart sink was that in that instant, there was no response. It was as if he was the only one left in the room. Shopkeeper Wei's first reaction was that it was impossible. He had more than 10 subordinates in the room, all of them strong and energetic. It had only been a few seconds since the candle went out. So how could something have happened? Even if something had happened, there should have been a squeak. It was impossible for there to be no sound at all. Having never encountered such a situation before, Shopkeeper Wei instinctively knew something had happened. He didn't dare to move. There was only one exit in the room, and with the door closed, no light could enter. The candle suddenly went out, and his subordinates didn't make a single sound. Something must have happened. Shopkeeper Wei's pet beast was outside. It was a ferocious hound. He tried to summon his pet beast inside, using his blood contract, but there was no response. He didn't dare to move. He didn't even dare to breathe loudly. He thought of jumping up and running out the door, but he didn't have the courage to do so. No matter who it was that blew out the candle, no matter who it was that silenced his subordinates, no matter who it was that silenced his pet beast, none of them was someone he could handle. At least Shopkeeper Wei had this much self-awareness. Waiting. In particular, waiting for an unknown possibility was often quite unbearable. In his heart, he knew very well that the thing he waited for at the end might be very terrifying. After a short moment of silence, a flame appeared out of thin air and landed on the extinguished candle, reigniting it once again. Finally, there was light in the pitch-black room. At first glance, Shopkeeper Wei saw his brothers lying on the ground, motionless. Clearly, the moment the candle was extinguished, his brothers had been defeated. This was an impressive move. No matter who it was, they weren't people he could handle. Looking up ahead, he saw a person. This person's upper body was hidden in the darkness, so his face couldn't be seen. He was currently sitting at the gambling table opposite him. The scene was too frightening. Shopkeeper Wei could be considered a local tyrant, but the more he experienced the bloodshed of the Jianghu, the more he understood when to admit defeat. He immediately said, "I, Wei Yukai, run a casino. It's hard to avoid offending people in the way I do things. If I've done anything wrong, please forgive me, brother. I'll apologize. Take the silver on the table, and let's be friends. If it's something else, just tell me. If I can do it, I won't hesitate. You are on the right track." Shopkeeper Wei is indeed worthy of being the leader of Tianjin City's gangsters. He is indeed sensible and knows when to advance and retreat. Sitting across the table was naturally Lin Jin. To Lin Jin, Wei Yukai was insignificant, not even worth mentioning. Lin Jin was only here to find out where that young master was. That was Lin Jin's goal. Lin Jin remembered Wei Yukai addressing that young master as Big Boss. "Where's your big boss?" Lin Jin asked. Startled, Wei Yotsai's heart thumped wildly. Lin Jin quickly added, "You only have one chance to speak. Don't waste it." Sweat dripped down Wei Yotsai's forehead. This was a matter of life and death. He knew that if he said he didn't know or lied, there would only be one outcome: death. Wei Yukai didn't want to die. Although he knew that betraying his big boss wouldn't end well, he would either die immediately or tomorrow. Moreover, there were still several hours before daybreak. He might still have a chance to escape. Moreover, since the other party was looking for his big boss, it meant that he wasn't looking for him. This was a good thing. Hence, he quickly made up his mind. But before he spoke, he mustered up the courage to ask, "Sir, are you looking for our big boss to seek revenge? What does that have to do with you? Our big boss lives in his mansion. It's not far from here. Take a right outside and walk to the end of the third alley. It's the innermost yard. There's a stone statue of a martial emperor in front of the door, so it's easy to recognize." When Wei Yukai noticed the hostile tone of the man, he immediately betrayed his big boss without hesitation. He knew very well that his big boss wouldn't let him go, so he had to make a run for it in the middle of the night. Fortunately, Wei Yukai had left a way out for himself over the years, so he wouldn't have to run around like a headless chicken. "You better not be lying. Otherwise, you'll die no matter where you run to." The candlelight flickered. Perhaps it was just a momentary daze, but the man disappeared. Wei Yukai quickly got up. He didn't dare to look at his brothers lying on the ground. Noticing that the silver tails on the table were still there, he wrapped the tablecloth and left without another word. He wanted to leave in the middle of the night, as far away as possible. However, he didn't know that the needles in his body were still there. Lin Jin had to do something. Otherwise, if the man had lied earlier, where would Lin Jin find him? However, Lin Jin figured that Wei Yukai wouldn't lie. For a local bully like him who lived at the bottom of society, even though he always said that loyalty was the most important thing, if he really encountered something, he would definitely not share the joys and sorrows with you. He would definitely look out for himself, and the heavens would destroy him. Lin Jin soon arrived at the place Wei Yukai mentioned. He saw the door at the end of the alley, and there was indeed a statue of a martial emperor. Legend had it that martial emperor was a martial arts expert from hundreds of years ago, while others were researching pet beasts and blood contracts. This martial emperor took a different path and cultivated martial arts, eventually becoming one of the world's top experts. Later on, he was addressed as Martial Emperor. Many martial artists erected his statue in front of their doors to show their devotion to martial arts and to show their reverence. When Master Gu exchanged blows with him on the street earlier, Lin Jin could tell that he was a martial arts expert. Now, it seemed like he was right. Only a martial arts cultivator would live in a place like this. Lin Jin had learned some superficial martial arts in the past, but he treated it as a way to strengthen his body. Naturally, he couldn't be considered a true martial arts cultivator. Casting camouflage, Lin Jin stepped on a cloud and floated into the yard. The yard was spacious and spotless. After landing, Lin Jin looked at the house and walked forward. There were no pet beasts guarding the yard, which saved him some effort. But soon, Lin Jin realized that he had been careless. As he walked up the stairs, he accidentally bumped into something and heard a bell ringing beside him. It must be a spiderweb trap. In the next instant, a cold glint shot out from the house, heading straight for Lin Jin's face. It was so fast that he couldn't react in time. Fortunately, Lin Jin knew something was wrong the moment he heard the bell. He quickly dodged to the side, and the arrow barely grazed his cheek. That was close. Before Lin Jin could steady himself, 2 more cold glints shot out from the house. This time, it was even more dangerous because a figure broke through the window. The other party was a martial arts expert. If he were to get close, Lin Jin might not even have time to cast a spell. Xiaohua. Lin Jin immediately invoked a spell. With a flick of his sleeve, dozens of silver needles shot out. With 2 clangs, the 2 flying knives were deflected by the needles. Had he been any slower, Lin Jin would have been hit. Xiaohua had already dashed out from a ball of flames, entangling the figure in front of him. The entire process was extremely dangerous. Chapter 471. From the moment the bell rang until Lin Jin dodged the 2 fatal attacks, only a few moments had passed. Yet, in this short span of time, his opponent managed to retaliate and almost knocked Lin Jin to the ground. This kind of situation had never happened before. Lin Jin knew that this was the specialty and advantage of martial arts experts. Their explosive power at close range was incomparable to others. Although spells were strong, they couldn't compare to the speed of a martial arts expert. As the saying went, being 1 step ahead was the key to victory. Fortunately, Lin Jin still had the pulse-seeking technique coiled wire needle. With quick reflexes, he managed to block the 2 hidden weapons. Otherwise, he would have fallen to the ground. He might have even lost his life. But now, Lin Jin glanced at the young man who was fighting Xiaohua and smiled. Martial arts experts were indeed powerful, but no matter how much they cultivated, even if they reached the highest realm of martial arts, they still couldn't compare to some high-level pet beasts. There was a fundamental difference between the 2. In terms of explosive power and endurance, a human's strength paled in comparison to a pet beast's. Moreover, pet beasts had sharp claws and fangs and could control their attributes better than humans. In terms of lethality and combat strength, pet beasts were definitely superior to humans. Hence, from the moment Xiaohua blocked his opponent's path, the outcome of this battle was already decided. The young man's martial arts skills were extraordinary, and he was strong enough to stand a chance against some weaker rank 4 pet beasts. But that was not the case against Xiaohua. Forget the fact that Xiaohua was now a rank 5 firewolf. Even if it was still rank 4, the young man wouldn't be Xiaohua's match with his martial arts skills. His martial arts skills could only allow him to last a little longer, that was all. By now, Xiaohua had grown to the size of a bull. His entire body was engulfed in blazing flames. The young man was sweating profusely. Although his internal energy was strong and every move he made was immensely powerful, he was no match for a pet beast like Xiaohua. Soon, he would be defeated. Just then, a voice rang out from another room in the yard. Be lenient when you can. The voice carried some sort of power and rhythm as it rippled through the room. When Lin Jin heard it, he felt as if a drum was beating in his head, causing him to lose focus for a moment. Xiaohua was the same. Under the vibration of this voice, there was a short pause. The noble young master, who had been forced to his limits, finally seized this opportunity. He hurriedly took a few steps back and hid in the corner of the wall, panting heavily. To be able to fight with a ferocious beast to this extent, he could be considered to be really powerful. An expert. Lin Jin snapped out of his daze and turned to look at the house, ignoring the young master. Now that the man had expended all of his energy, he probably couldn't even lift his legs to walk. He was no longer a threat to Lin Jin. What really caught their attention was the person in the other room. Before the man spoke, Lin Jin and Xiao Hu didn't even notice that someone was inside. At that moment, the door of the house opened and an old man walked out. This old man was dressed in plain clothes, no different from any other old man on the streets. There was nothing special about him, but the more he looked like, the more apprehensive Lin Jin became. Also, there were no blood contract fluctuations coming from this old man. In other words, he had never formed a blood pact with a tamed beast before. "Master, please help me kill this man," the young master said. This old man was actually his master. In that case, the other party was also a martial arts master. No wonder. Just then, the old man scolded the young master. "Shut up, you evil disciple. How have I ever taught you? Have you forgotten?" The young master was still quibbling. "I haven't forgotten. This man has committed a heinous crime. For him to come here in the middle of the night, he must be up to no good." At this, the old man let out a sigh. Ignoring the young master, he saluted Lin Jin and said, "I am sure Yuan Dao." "Greetings." Lin Jin remained expressionless, but he returned the greeting. He wanted to see what this old man was up to. Admittedly, judging from how the man's voice could stun people, he was a top-notch expert. While Lin Jin was wary, that didn't mean he was afraid. Even if he was the legendary martial sage, Lin Jin wouldn't be afraid. Martial arts had a long history and existed even longer than immortality. Yet, it had never been able to influence the world. The reason for this was because the shortcomings of martial arts were too obvious. The threshold was low, but the upper limit wasn't high enough. Humans cultivated and honed their skills, but no matter how powerful they were, there would still be a huge innate gap between them and beasts. This was something that couldn't be skipped. As for spells, the gap was even more obvious. Spells borrowed power from the universe and utilized elements such as wind, fire, thunder, and lightning. How could a human fight against them? However, martial arts had its advantages too. It was fast and explosive. Against a regular blood contract cultivator, Lin Jin wouldn't even be able to react before a martial arts master could finish him off. Now that Lin Jin was on full alert, he wasn't afraid of the other party's tricks. The old man who called himself Shi Yuan Dao didn't play any tricks either. "How should I address you?" the old man asked with a smile. Lin Jin. There was no need to hide his name. After all, Lin Jin wasn't afraid of anything. However, the moment he said his name, the young master paled. The Demonic Appraisal Association was just discussing how to deal with Lin Jin. To think that he would show up that very night. This couldn't be a coincidence, could it? The young master had a bad feeling about this. Something was terribly wrong. At this moment, the old man said, "This disciple of mine has been practicing martial arts with me since he was young. Later on, he made some achievements and wanted to roam the martial world alone. I agreed, but I didn't expect him to go astray after he left. I have been looking for him for the past few days because I found out about his shady business. Originally, I wanted to catch him and bring him back to discipline him, but I didn't expect Mr. Lin to come tonight. I hope that Mr. Lin will be magnanimous and give him a chance. After daybreak, I will take him away and not let him commit any more crimes." His attitude was sincere. However, Lin Jin wasn't that easy to fool. Lin Jin shook his head and said, "Senior Shi, do you know what evil deeds your disciple has committed? Putting that aside, why didn't you stop him when he suddenly attacked just now? Seeing that he wasn't a match for him, you jumped out to be the peacemaker. Do you think I, Lin Jin, am a pushover?" Shi Yuan Dao was taken aback when he heard this. Lin Jin had hit the nail on the head. It was true that Shi Yuan Dao didn't attack immediately. To him, anyone who snuck into his house in the middle of the night probably wasn't a good person. In other words, even if his disciple killed him, so be it. However, after realizing that the intruder was so cunning, he still stepped out to mediate. That was a little too much. Mr. Lin is right. However, I didn't know who it was before this, so I didn't make a move immediately. I'll say it again, it's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. Furthermore, my disciple and I are in the wrong in this matter. I hope that Mr. Lin can be magnanimous. I promise to do one thing for Mr. Lin as repayment. Chapter 472. Shi Yuandao obviously didn't want to explain anymore. The more he tried to explain, the more difficult it was to explain. Since he had a high level of martial arts cultivation, he was willing to do him a favor. As long as the other party did not pursue the matter, he was willing to help him. Lin Jin chuckled. Senior Shi must be a martial arts expert. What's his realm like? Shi Yuandao laughed. I have lived 120 years in vain. I have already attained the martial saint realm 30 years ago. It was clear that he was very proud of this. There were many people who practiced martial arts in this world. However, less than 1 in 10 million people could reach the martial sage realm. Hence, Shi Yuandao naturally had the right to be arrogant. There was a limit to one's lifespan. Shi Yuandao had not only lived for more than 100 years, but he had also cultivated to become a martial saint. Speaking of which, he could be considered to have reached the limit of a human's lifespan. What do you think? This disciple of mine has indeed gone astray. I will definitely discipline him strictly. At worst, I won't let him leave the mountain again. As long as Mr. Lin is willing to let him go, I will owe Mr. Lin a favor. If Mr. Lin has any trouble in the future, I will definitely do my best to help you. Needless to say, this condition was indeed very tempting. A century-old warrior saint was very powerful. Lin Jin had read in some books that if a century-old warrior saint were to attack, even if there were pet beasts within 300 feet, few could withstand the warrior saint's ferocious attack. Moreover, a martial saint's internal energy was powerful and could temporarily suppress a beast pet. This period of time was enough for the other party to kill the blood contract cultivator. To a certain extent, a century martial saint was an existence that no one was willing to provoke. In other words, while the man said he hoped that Lin Jin would be merciful and that they would discuss things further, he was actually threatening Lin Jin. Lin Jin could tell that too. Lin Jin glanced at the young man. Although the latter didn't dare to act rashly, Lin Jin could see the resentment in his eyes. In other words, he was still thinking of ways to exact revenge and deal with Lin Jin. Therefore, they absolutely could not let this kind of person go. Naturally, he was not interested in Shi Yuandao's deal. Xiao Hua kill. Lin Jin made his decision almost immediately. On the other side, Xiao Hua received the order and immediately pounced forward. When the young master saw this, he screamed in fright, "Master, save me!" When Shi Yuandao saw this, anger flashed in his eyes. Xiao Chen had already said this, but the other party was still unwilling to let it go. This showed that they did not care about him, a 100-year-old martial sage. Since that was the case, Xiao Chen did not need to be polite anymore. In short, no one could touch this disciple of his today. He had raised this disciple since he was young and treated him like his own son. Killing his disciple was no different from killing his own son. How could he let this matter rest? Stop! Shi Yuandao roared, and the bricks under his feet instantly crumbled. Then, he charged forward. Although he looked ordinary and unremarkable earlier, now that he had revealed his methods, he realized how horrifying a martial sage was. At this moment, it seemed that no one was a match for him, and no one could stop him. Shi Yuandao was smart. Instead of saving his disciple because he was wary of the fire wolf, he chose to attack Lin Jin instead. He clearly knew how to deal with a blood contract cultivator. As long as he could suppress the cultivator, the other's pet beast wouldn't be a threat. Having lived for so many years, Shi Yuandao had fought against blood contract cultivators many times, so he knew how to deal with them. He was fast. At this distance, he was confident that no blood contract cultivator could withstand his attack, not even the world's top blood contract experts. As a century-old martial sage, Shi Yuandao was naturally confident. But the problem was Lin Jin wasn't an average blood contract cultivator. Shi Yuandao was fast, and Lin Jin had a hard time defending himself. Even if Lin Jin used his needles, he wouldn't be able to hit the man, not even Dragon Fire. Moreover, it was too late. Lin Jin only had one chance to attack. If he failed to suppress his opponent, this terrifying century-old martial sage would arrive before him. This was going to be a hassle. Of course, even so, Lin Jin still had ways to deal with it. For example, he could use the nebula barrier to put some distance between him and his opponent, or he could open the visitation hall's door and use its power to force his opponent to retreat. However, Lin Jin didn't think it was necessary, because he had other, simpler, and more direct methods. Immortal binding rope. Lin Jin lifted his sleeves, and a golden beam shot out at a speed far faster than Shi Yuandao. The latter reacted quickly and tried to dodge at the sight of danger. However, as if the golden beam had a mind of its own, even if it managed to dodge, it would immediately change directions and chase after Shi Yuandao. In the end, the golden beam wrapped around Shi Yuandao's body, binding the century-old martial sage securely. Shi Yuandao was terrified. He struggled with all his might, his vital energy rippling like a surging flame. Every move he made contained the strength of a dragon and elephant. But no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't break free. When he looked again, the golden beam had turned into a rope. While it seemed ordinary, Shi Yuandao knew that this was a true magical artifact. This is a magical artifact. Shi Yuandao gasped in surprise. Judging by his expression, he was truly shocked. A century-old martial sage is indeed knowledgeable, Lin Jin said. While it sounded like a compliment, it was in fact a sarcastic remark. Shi Yuandao could tell, but he didn't mind. Instead, he turned to Lin Jin. Mr. Lin, you actually have a magical artifact. Are you a disciple of a sect of immortals? There was a hint of fear in his voice. Lin Jin didn't answer. There was no need for him to explain anything to Shi Yuandao. Just then, the young man let out a blood-curdling scream. Xiaohua had already struck the young man with his claws. The latter was immediately engulfed in flames, screaming in terror. However, Xiaohua's flames were so overbearing that the man only had time to scream before he collapsed to the ground dead. The flames continued to burn. Soon, the young man would be reduced to a charred corpse. Lin Jin wasn't bloodthirsty, but sometimes the situation forced him to. Just like Chu Qi and this young man. They were the ones who plotted against him first. If he didn't kill them, they would kill him. In such a situation, all Lin Jin could do was to give them an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. He couldn't be bothered with cruelty for now. Watching his beloved disciple die before his eyes, Shi Yuandao's eyes were filled with deep sorrow. He sighed and said, "My dear disciple, you've committed too many evil deeds all these years. I've told you before that the more you do evil, the more you bring about your own destruction. But you wouldn't listen. Today, I can't save you. Be human again in your next life. Remember not to walk down the path of evil." Despite his words, tears were already rolling down Shi Yuandao's cheeks. It was obvious how sorrowful he was. Lin Jin was wary of this century-old martial sage. Given the current situation, Lin Jin had killed the man's beloved disciple. No one in his position would let the matter rest so easily. Right now, Lin Jin had the man tied up. But if the man decided to go after Lin Jin in the future, Lin Jin would still have to worry about him. Hence, murderous intent rose in Lin Jin's heart. This Shi Yuandao couldn't be allowed to live. Shi Yuandao sighed, seemingly aware that the current situation was extremely disadvantageous to him. "Mr. Lin, if I knew you were a disciple of a sect of immortals, I would have killed my disciple with a single palm strike. But it's too late for that now." Chapter 473. Shi Yuandao regained his composure. "Mr. Lin, let's have a bet." "What bet?" Lin Jin asked. "Let's bet if I can break this treasure of yours with my martial qi." Right after he said that, Shi Yuandao bellowed, and his energy surged to its peak. His eyes widened, and he took a deep breath. His body enlarged, and the immortal binding rope let out a strange noise. Lin Jin couldn't help but take a step back. Too strong. Lin Jin's eyes were filled with shock. He didn't expect Shi Yuandao to be able to exert such overwhelming strength even after being bound by a treasure like the immortal binding rope. It seemed like Shi Yuandao was planning to use brute force to break the rope. Break! Shi Yuandao's energy surged. Lin Jin could clearly hear the immortal binding rope creaking as if it was about to break. This wasn't a good omen. Lin Jin prepared himself. If necessary, he would kill Shi Yuandao right away. After all, this century-old warrior sage was too dangerous. If he managed to break free, it would be difficult to deal with him again. Moreover, even if Shi Yuandao didn't attack Lin Jin, he would still be a huge threat if he managed to escape. Lin Jin didn't want to live in fear at all times, wary of a martial sage expert spying on him from the shadows. Hence, no matter what, he had to eliminate this threat today. There was a crack. Lin Jin clearly heard a sound. It sounded like something had cracked. His first thought was that the immortal binding rope had snapped. This treasure was still very important to Lin Jin. It might be the most valuable item in his possession. If this item were to be damaged, it would be a huge loss to Lin Jin. However, upon closer inspection, it didn't seem like the immortal binding rope had snapped. Instead, it seemed like some kind of boundary had been broken. Shi Yuandao's energy was so strong that it was terrifying. Not daring to waste any more time, Lin Jin acted immediately. Since regular needles wouldn't work, Lin Jin took out the Thunderfire Needle. This Thunderfire Needle could be considered the most destructive magic weapon Lin Jin had. With a flick of his finger, the Thunderfire Needle pierced Shi Yuandao's chest. The latter immediately vomited a mouthful of blood as his energy dissipated. With a plop, Shi Yuandao fell to the ground dead. Lin Jin went over to take a look, and his heart thumped wildly. Shi Yuandao might not have died to his Thunderfire Needles, but in fact his meridians were already broken. Thinking about it carefully, Shi Yuandao knew that the strength he had used to forcefully break the immortal binding rope had exceeded his limits. Continuing in that kind of situation was no different from suicide. Even if he didn't use the Thunderfire Needle, Shi Yuandao would still die. Moreover, he would die of exhaustion. Lin Jin wasn't acquainted with this martial sage expert, and it was only a coincidence that they met. It was a pity that they were enemies. Otherwise, based on the other party's personality, they might have become friends at another time and place. But there were no ifs in this world. Lin Jin didn't regret it at all. By choosing to help his disciple, Lin Jin was already opposing him. After putting away the immortal binding rope, Lin Jin was shocked to see that there were several strands of rope snapping. This made Lin Jin's heart pound. Obviously, this was caused by Shi Yuandao. Just now, when the other party struggled with all his might, he almost succeeded? No, that wasn't right. Lin Jin took a closer look. Although the rope was slightly damaged, it wasn't a big problem. This was all Shi Yuandao could do. Even if the other party continued, he couldn't possibly break the immortal binding rope. After all, this was a treasure. 100-year-old martial sage is still limited, Lin Jin muttered to himself. Despite his words, Lin Jin knew that if it weren't for his many tricks up his sleeves and treasures, anyone else in his place would have been dead by now. For this man's martial arts to be passed down for so long, he must have some impressive items. After killing the man, Lin Jin quickly searched through the manor as well. He wanted to find clues about the Demonic Appraisal Association, and to his surprise, he did find something. Inside the young master's house, Lin Jin found some letters. Other than that, there was also a black wooden box. Judging by its shape, it seemed to contain some sort of weapon. Taking a closer look, Lin Jin noticed that there were many ancient talismans pasted on the black wooden box. It seemed like they were used to seal this black wooden box. There must be something inside. As he got closer, Lin Jin could faintly hear strange noises coming from the black wooden box. It sounded like someone was crying, but also like someone was laughing at the same time. The sound of a bitter laugh was rather eerie. The item inside wasn't simple. It was sinister. Lin Jin was curious, but he had no intention of investigating it here. He then went to Shi Yuandao's house. Soon, Lin Jin came out with a small booklet. Shi Yuan Dao didn't have much to offer. Lin Jin only found a handwritten book with the title Martial Scripture written on it. However, since it was obtained from a 100-year-old martial sage like Shi Yuan Dao, it must be something extraordinary. Lin Jin didn't touch the corpse. Just like Chu Chi's body, Lin Jin's goal was to let the Demonic Appraisal Association know. This was a show of force and also a warning. After all, the war between him and the Demonic Appraisal Association had already begun, so there was no need to hide it anymore. Other than a formal declaration of war, Lin Jin had another motive. He wanted to let the Demonic Appraisal Association know that he was currently in Merak City. This way, they would focus their attention here and not cause trouble at Maple City. Of course, even if they did, they might not get anything out of it. Shanger was no pushover. Before daybreak, Lin Jin returned to the inn so he could still rest for a while. Overnight, Lin Jin dug out one of the Demonic Appraisal Association's meeting places and learned a lot about them. He even got rid of 2 of their members. Unfortunately, Lin Jin couldn't split himself and didn't dare to use his needles to track down the 4 members. Hence, Lin Jin couldn't do anything to the other 2, Elder Yi and Zhou Wang. Lucky them. This was all the Demonic Appraisal Association could do for now. Next, Lin Jin would wait and see how the Demonic Appraisal Association would react and take action. No matter what they did, Lin Jin would take it on. Of course, none of this would affect Lin Jin's business. He came to the Heavenly Spiral Nation for 2 official matters. One was to successfully pass the Rank 4 Beast Appraiser's assessment and become a Rank 4 Beast Appraiser. The second was to visit the Heavenly Spiral Palace and borrow a Lord's Heavenly Tome. To Lin Jin, these 2 matters were rather important. After daybreak, he would head to Merak City's headquarters. Yesterday, he made an appointment with Appraiser Tan Sun's old friend, Jiang Tianhe. He would arrange for the Rank 4 Beast Appraiser here to take the examination. Lin Jin didn't ask for the details. He only knew that he would pass the examination according to normal standards. Lin Jin had this much confidence. After lying down for a while, the sky brightened. Lin Jin got up, washed up, and changed his clothes. Outside, Senior Mo was still immersed in his cultivation. Ben had prepared breakfast, but Lin Jin didn't plan on eating in the room. Instead, he went to the dining hall on the first floor and flipped open the Martial Bible to read as he ate. Chapter 474. After eating for a while, Gumingzhong came downstairs. "Brother Lin, you're up early." Gumingzhong yawned as he sat down beside Lin Jin. The innkeeper was very considerate as he placed breakfast on the table. Lin Jin smiled, thinking that he hadn't slept the entire night, so of course he was early. The breakfast was good. There was marinated duck and porridge. There were also 3 appetizers that tasted good. Gumingzhong noticed the booklet in Lin Jin's hand. "Brother Lin, what are you reading?" Gumingzhong was curious. Of course, it was mainly because he saw the word martial on the booklet. Gumingzhong had been learning martial arts since he was young, especially his swordsmanship. He had never fallen behind. Now that he had the ink monster, he could finally travel the world with his sword. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to display such exquisite swordsmanship with just his pet beast. Traveling outside would only make him look like a piece of cake to others. Faced with Gumingzhong's question, Lin Jin didn't hide anything. "It's a book on martial arts cultivation. It's well written. If Master Gu would like to read it, I can lend it to you." Having said that, he handed the martial scripture over. To Lin Jin, this martial scripture didn't mean much. After all, martial arts wasn't something that could be mastered in a short period of time. It would take years, decades, or even decades of cultivation, polishing, and accumulation. Based on Lin Jin's current situation, it was impossible for him to focus on martial arts cultivation. Hence, it was fine for him to take a look and broaden his horizons. But if we were to talk about cultivation, he could forget about it. Gumingzhong was different. Lin Jin knew that Gumingzhong had been cultivating martial arts for more than 10 years. Everyone assumed that Gumingzhong was a scholar or a calligraphy expert. In fact, his swordsmanship was impressive. He had at least 10 years of cultivation behind him. According to Gumingzhong, Swordsmanship and calligraphy were linked since ancient times. They were inseparable. Hence, the more skilled he was in calligraphy, the more impressive his swordsmanship would be. Comparatively speaking, the martial scripture was much more valuable to Gumingzhong. Lin Jin knew that it summarized the 5 main categories of fist techniques: palm techniques, swordsmanship, mystical techniques, and internal energy. All of them were solid knowledge. To a martial arts cultivator, the value of this martial scripture was immeasurable. Gumingzhong loved 3 things in his life: painting, swordsmanship, and his female teacher. Gumingzhong naturally had the experience. Hence, after curiously receiving the martial scripture, he was immediately engrossed in it. So much so that he even forgot to eat. Good stuff, good stuff. The profoundness of this sword technique is too profound. Gumingzhong muttered to himself. He was completely immersed in the book. With one hand holding the book and the other holding a chopstick, he subconsciously gestured at something. It seemed to be a sword technique. Lin Jin was done eating. Noticing that Gumingzhong was engrossed in his meal, Lin Jin didn't disturb him. Lin Jin also instructed the innkeeper not to disturb Gumingzhong, because Lin Jin knew that Gumingzhong had entered a mystical state. If he was disturbed, his enlightenment might be interrupted. Perhaps it would be difficult to have such a feeling next time. After giving his instructions, Lin Jin left with Senior Mo. Before the appointed time, Lin Jin arrived at Heavenly Jade City's headquarters. This time, he didn't have Senior Mo wait outside. Instead, he brought the dragon inside. Of course, Lin Jin had his own reasons for bringing Senior Mo along. Once they arrived, Lin Jin met Jiang Tianhe. "Appraiser Lin, please follow me." Jiang Tianhe was dressed formally today. After all, he was about to take the rank 4 Beast Appraiser assessment. Even in Heavenly Jade City, this wasn't something that happened often. Moreover, he was the one in charge of this, so he had to treat it seriously. Jiang Tianhe led Lin Jin inside. After passing through several courtyards, they arrived outside a large hall. "Appraiser Lin, from now on, the rank 4 Beast Appraiser's assessment will begin. I'm not too sure about the specifics, so it's up to you now," Jiang Tianhe reminded Lin Fan softly before saluting him and leaving quickly. Since Jiang Tianhe was only a rank 3 Beast Appraiser, he didn't have access to the contents of a rank 4 Beast Appraiser's assessment. However, Lin Jin was surprised that Jiang Tianhe managed to arrange for Lin Jin's assessment in just one day. This meant that Jiang Tianhe was taking this matter seriously and was doing his best to handle it. Lin Jin saluted him as well. No matter the outcome, he owed appraiser Jiang Tian a favor. He would have to return the favor in the future. Jiang Tian's reminder made Lin Jin understand that the rank 4 Beast Appraiser's assessment was about to begin. However, he had no idea what the assessment was about or what the criteria were. Behind him, Senior Mo looked around curiously. It felt inexplicably reserved and even a little timid in front of this great hall. Just then, a voice came from a hall. "Appraiser Lin, please enter." Someone was calling for Lin Jin. Lin Jin looked into the hall. It was pitch black inside, so he couldn't see clearly. He had to go in first. "Old Mo, follow me," Lin Jin instructed before heading toward the hall's entrance. There was a relief sculpture on the ground in front of him that looked like a gigantic myriad beast atlas. There were myriad beast atlases everywhere. Although they were called myriad beast atlases, they were in fact just a picture of 100 beasts at most. However, the myriad beast atlases differed from place to place. In some places, there were birds with ethereal spirits. In some places, there were herbivores such as deer, sheep, and cows. And in some places, there were real beasts such as tigers, leopards, wolves, lions, snakes, and pythons. Of course, there were also strange creatures such as insects, scorpions, and venomous creatures. What Lin Jin saw now was a myriad beast atlas relief sculpture. Be it a lion, a wolf, a tiger, or a leopard, they were all so lifelike that they looked like they were alive. Just a single glance was enough to stun anyone who saw it. It was as if they were fearful of these beasts. It was as if there were tens of thousands of beasts guarding the entrance. Lin Jin obviously had a way to ignore this pressure, and so did Senior Amo. As a dragon, it was naturally of a higher level than other beasts. Hence, some relief sculptures weren't enough to scare it. However, the moment Lin Jin stepped onto the sculpture, the intimidating aura of a ferocious beast instantly increased by several notches. Even Senior Amo shuddered in fear. It wasn't afraid earlier, but now it couldn't take it anymore. Of course, it could still hold on. As for Lin Jin, he could only feel the oppressive aura of these beasts. However, this terrifying pressure wasn't enough to affect him in any way. Simultaneously, inside the hall, two beast appraisers were sipping tea and chatting. These two beast appraisers were clearly of high status. Upon closer inspection, one could see that they were both wearing 4-ring beast pattern sleeves. This meant that they were both rank 4 beast appraisers. Brother Yen, do you think the people participating in this assessment will be able to pass the first stage? A rank 4 beast appraiser asked after taking a sip of tea. The rank 4 beast appraiser smiled. Every year, there are always people who try to participate in the rank 4 assessment through various means. However, not many of them manage to pass the first stage. However, I heard that the people participating this time are rather skilled, so I think they should be able to pass the first stage. However, it's hard to say how long they'll need. Maybe 2 hours, maybe 4 hours. Chapter 475. You're right, Brother Yen. Back then, it took us an hour to pass the first stage. The 1,000 Beast Atlas's aura is no laughing matter. To become a rank 4 beast appraiser, one must first be unafraid of the pressure emitted by wild beasts. If one isn't brave enough, he won't be able to become a beast appraiser. This tea is still a little hot, but it does taste good. The two rank 4 beast appraisers clearly knew how difficult the first stage was. If Lin Jin couldn't even pass the first stage, there was no need to proceed with the rest of the assessment. However, just as appraiser Yin blew on the tea leaves in his cup and was about to take a second sip, he froze, because he saw a man and a beast enter the hall. When a man got closer, he bowed and said, "Greetings, appraisers. I'm Lin Jin." The two rank 4 beast appraisers couldn't hide their astonishment. Appraiser Yin mused, "I just took a sip of tea and it's still boiling hot. How did this man get past the 1,000 Beast Atlas's aura and enter the hall? How long did he take?" It was just a matter of a few sentences. Lin Jin bowed, but didn't receive a response. Hence, he said, "I'm Lin Jin. Greetings, appraisers." Only then did appraiser Yin and appraiser Yin come to their senses. Despite their shock, they knew that Lin Jin had passed the first stage with unbelievable speed. Speaking of which, they were in charge of the first stage's assessment. Since Lin Jin could walk in, it meant that he had passed the test. Appraiser Yin put down his teacup and got up to return the salute. "Appraiser Lin, please leave through the side door and head to the backyard. There will be other beast appraisers there to conduct the assessment," Appraiser Yin said without the slightest hint of arrogance. Although he was a rank 4 beast appraiser, he knew that Lin Jin's ability to pass the first stage so smoothly was proof of his strength. There was a high chance that he could pass the rank 4 assessment. Once he passed, Lin Jin would be a rank 4 beast appraiser on equal footing with him, so he wouldn't put on airs. Upon hearing this, Lin Jin quickly thanked him before heading for the side door. After Lin Jin and Senior Mo had left, the other rank 4 beast appraiser said, "This man's future is limitless. Lin Jin from Jade Dragon Kingdom. I'll remember him. Come, let's go see if he can pass the next stage." Appraiser Yin stopped drinking his tea. He was more curious about Lin Jin's assessment results. After all, the man's time of passing the first stage had definitely broken all records. Even Mr. Zhong couldn't be this fast when he was young. Driven by their curiosity, the two rank 4 beast appraisers immediately got up and headed for the side door. By now, Lin Jin had a rough idea of how to conduct a 4-ring evaluation. The rank 4 beast appraiser was a rank 4. The logic was simple. If one wanted to become a rank 4 beast appraiser, they would have to face at least rank 3 or rank 4 beasts. They might even have to face rank 5 beasts. When encountering such a situation, one absolutely could not be timid. Therefore, dealing with the pressure of the ferocious beast became a necessary ability. However, this was clearly Lin Jin's forte. One had to know that the Museum of Deadly Beasts had collected many specimens of terrifying beasts. Although they were just specimens, they still retained their original aura and pressure. Lin Jin often stayed in such environments, so he was already used to the pressure exerted by rank 5 and even rank 6 and above beasts. When a Nine Heavens world was activated, the aura that descended from the heavens was many times stronger than the 10,000 Beast Atlas at the entrance. Lin Jin wasn't afraid of it, so passing the first stage was a piece of cake. Exiting from the side door, Lin Jin saw a long alley with brick walls on both sides. The walls were about 20 feet tall. The width of the alley was only slightly more than 5 feet, but it was at least 200 feet long. Lin Jin took a quick glance before walking forward. Just then, a mad bull as tall as a grown man charged in from the side door. The raging ox beast had 4 horns and was extremely muscular. Its eyes were bloodshot as it charged forward, glaring at Meng Hao. Lin Jin remained where he was. He could see that the mad bull's ears were stuffed with something. Some kind of spell had been cast on it, causing it to go berserk. Since it couldn't hear anything, Lin Jin couldn't comfort it even if he wanted to. It seemed like killing it was the only way to prevent it from hurting him. However, now that it was confirmed that this was part of the rank 4 Beast Appraiser's assessment, things couldn't be that simple. Hence, he couldn't kill it. For anyone who was capable of participating in the rank 4 Beast Appraiser's assessment, killing this mad bull was a piece of cake. Hence, killing the bull wasn't part of the assessment. Lin Jin figured it out after some thought. He raised his hand and pressed it against the air, releasing his aura. When a mad bull was still several feet away from him, it collapsed to the ground with a loud thud. This was the power of a beast's aura. Previously, the 10,000 Beast Atlas was a test of one's endurance. Now, it was a test of one's ability to control and suppress beasts. Similarly, these were all necessary skills to become a qualified beast appraiser. To Lin Jin, this was nothing. He passed the test easily. He strode over and walked past the suppressed mad bull. The latter remained motionless, maintaining a submissive posture. Lin Jin simply walked past it. Appraiser Yin and Lin Jin had been watching from behind, so they could see everything clearly. Once again, looks of disbelief appeared on their faces. Using his aura to suppress a peak rank 3 mad bull without the help of a pet beast, he sure is skilled. Pet beast? Look at the Jade Dragon beast. It doesn't have a blood contract with Lin Jin at all. And if I'm not mistaken, that Jade Dragon beast is a monster. What? A monster? How dare this Lin Jin? Isn't he afraid of the monster's backlash? Of course, he wouldn't be afraid if he's strong enough. I'm getting more and more curious. Come on, let's keep following him. Appraiser Yin and Lin Jin continued forward. Now that Lin Jin had left, the mad bull regained its footing. However, just as it was getting restless, Appraiser Yin suppressed it. A rank 4 Beast Appraiser was obviously far superior to a rank 3 Beast Appraiser. However, Appraiser Yin was able to suppress the mad bull by touching it with his palm, while Lin Jin was suppressing it through the air. Judging from this, Lin Jin was clearly more skilled. This was also why Appraiser Yin and the others were curious. After exiting the alley, Lin Jin arrived at a small courtyard where a rank 4 Beast Appraiser was reading a book. He was stunned to see Lin Jin enter. Are you Appraiser Lin Jin, who's here to participate in the rank 4 evaluation today? The rank 4 Beast Appraiser asked as if he remembered something. Lin Jin nodded. That fast? I thought you'd need at least 2 hours to get here, the rank 4 Beast Appraiser said before putting down the book in his hand. Just then, Appraiser Yin and Lin Jin entered as well. The 3 rank 4 Beast Appraisers discussed among themselves before turning to Lin Jin. Appraiser Lin, please follow us. Following the 3, Lin Jin arrived at another hall. After waiting for a while, he heard the summons and stepped inside. Inside, 10 rank 4 Beast Appraisers were already seated side by side, including the 3 familiar faces from before. Lin Jin's heart skipped a beat when he saw 10 rank 4 Beast Appraisers sitting in the hall. With a solemn expression, he went up to them and bowed. "Greetings, my fellow beast appraisers." 10 rank 4 beast appraisers appeared at the same time. In the entire central continent, only Heavenly Spiral Nation had this kind of power. If any of them were to go to an intermediate country, their status would be so high that they could even sit on the same level as the Emperor. And there were more than 20 rank 4 beast appraisers in the entire Heavenly Spiral Nation. Hence, it was only natural that Heavenly Spiral Nation was ranked number 1 in the central continent. Chapter 476. Lin Jin noticed that among the 10 rank 4 beast appraisers, the one sitting in the middle had an imposing aura. Despite his advanced age, there was a sharp glint in his eyes. This old man wasn't as simple as he seemed. In an instant, Lin Jin thought of someone. Zhong Zifeng. He was one of the top rank 4 beast appraisers in Spiral Nation. Someone once said that with Zhong Zifeng's abilities, he could easily be promoted to a rank 5 beast appraiser. However, Zhong Zifeng didn't do so. He once made a famous statement: only those who can reach rank 6 can have the potential to become a rank 5 beast appraiser. To put it simply, only by successfully promoting a rank 5 pet beast to rank 6 would he be willing to be promoted to a rank 5 beast appraiser. It was a pity that Zhong Zifeng never got the chance. Even if his works had become a treasure trove for beast appraisers, even if he had many appraising theories that had been passed down for generations, if he couldn't successfully promote a pet beast to rank 6, then everything was just a bubble to him. Lin Jin acknowledged Zhong Zifeng's stubbornness and persistence. But at the same time, Lin Jin felt that Zhong Zifeng's abilities were enough to qualify him as a rank 5 beast appraiser. If he wasn't mistaken, this old man should be Zhong Zifeng. Lin Jin wasn't making a blind guess. He had heard that Zhong Zifeng had a unique skill called Seal Hand. Right now, Lin Jin could vaguely see the word seal written on this old man's left hand. That was his signature. Hence, Lin Jin felt that his guess wasn't too far off. At this, Lin Jin decided to act smart and bowed at the old man again. "Greetings, Mr. Zhong." The latter smiled without denying it. "Appraiser Lin, you have a keen eye." He actually praised Lin Jin. His tone was amiable and didn't put on any airs. Clearly, Mr. Zhong was in charge of this test. With his status, no one would dare to take his place. Lin Jin suddenly remembered that Tan Lin seemed to have become Zhong Zifeng's disciple yesterday. "Appraiser Lin, you've passed the first 2 tests. According to our headquarters rules, you'll be qualified as a rank 4 beast appraiser after passing the 3rd test," Zhong Zifeng said. Zhong Zifeng said at this time. When it came to business, this old man was still very serious. Lin Jin listened carefully and noticed a problem in his words. Passing the 3rd test would qualify him as a rank 4 beast appraiser. Just a standard? It didn't say that he would be recognized by a rank 4 beast appraiser. These two didn't sound like much of a difference, but in reality, the difference was huge. However, Lin Jin didn't ask immediately. After all, the most important thing was to pass the 3rd test. Judging by the number of rank 4 beast appraisers here, the 3rd test was the key. The previous 2 could only be said to be appetizers. They were not worthy to be put on the table. According to tradition, we 10 beast appraisers will each ask you a question and you will answer it. Once all 10 questions have been answered, we will raise our hands to vote. As long as more than half of the rank 4 beast appraisers approve of you, you will pass the 3rd test. After Zhong Zifeng was done, Lin Jin couldn't resist asking. That was because there was a huge problem with this rule. The examiner didn't just say how many out of the 10 questions were answered correctly. The examiner didn't mention how well the examinee answered the questions, only whether more than half of the rank 4 beast appraisers approved of the examinee. In other words, even if the answer was wrong, as long as the other party acknowledged you, it was fine? Lin Jin asked directly. Zhong Zifeng smiled. That's right. In the past, very few people could answer more than half of the questions correctly, so the rules were changed. Lin Jin was enlightened. Since everyone understands the rules, let's begin. Mr. Zhong, I'll be the first to ask a question, one of the rank 4 beast appraisers said. This rank 4 beast appraiser was slightly plump and had a cheerful demeanor when he spoke. Zhong Zifeng introduced, "Appraiser Lin, this is Appraiser Ouyang." Lin Jin bowed. Appraiser Ouyang waved his hand and said, "I'll be testing your foundation in beast appraising. How about this? Recite the 10 methods of beast appraising from beginning to end." At this, one of the appraisers whispered to the person beside him, "Appraiser Ouyang is still as unpredictable as ever. The 10 methods of beast appraising are the most basic knowledge, but not many people would memorize it. After all, it's a few thousand words long, and because it's so basic, most people wouldn't be able to memorize it after a long time." The appraiser beside him nodded in agreement. Indeed, Appraiser Ouyang's questions were rather obscure. If one didn't have a solid foundation, they might fail the first question. This person might not be able to memorize it. It all depends on Appraiser Ouyang's mood. If he's in a good mood, even if he can't memorize it, he'll still be recognized. Otherwise, he can only blame it on his bad luck. Lin Jin was stunned by the question, but he didn't think too much about it. He immediately began reciting. One method of beast appraising, birds in the sky, beasts on the ground, yin versus yang, divided into the 5 elements, tigers touch bones, cranes observe feathers, antlers age, turtles break their shells. Lin Jin began reciting. He could remember the 10 methods of beast appraising clearly, so it wouldn't be a problem for him to recite them word for word. Moreover, even if he couldn't memorize them, the Museum of Deadly Beasts had a corresponding model. However, Lin Jin didn't think he would have to resort to this method. Lin Jin didn't get stuck on the few thousand words of the 10 methods of beast appraising and managed to recite it smoothly from start to end. After he was done, the plump appraiser Ouyang nodded profusely. Not bad at all. In my opinion, an appraiser's knowledge is too broad in the future, and it would be hard for him to study it all in his lifetime. But no matter how high one's realm is, one mustn't forget the basics. Appraiser Lin, it's impressive that you can recite it so fluently. Indeed, it was impressive, because among the 10 rank 4 beast appraisers present, not all of them could recite the 10 methods of beast appraising without missing a word. With this, Lin Jin had completed the first question. Moreover, Appraiser Ouyang didn't seem to be unhappy about it. This was a good start. "Let me ask the second question," Appraiser Yin chimed in. Appraiser Yin was one of the 2 beast appraisers in the first round. His question was also related to the previous test. There are 2 ways to deter a pet beast. One is the beast suppression lure, which is used to suppress the pet beast through physical contact. The other is blood contract coercion, which uses the pet beast's strength to suppress other pet beasts. I'd like to ask, how did Appraiser Lin manage to suppress the raging bull from afar? Rather than calling this question a question, it was more like asking for guidance. The rank 4 beast appraisers looked over as well. For some of them, this was their first time hearing about this detail, and they were equally curious. Lin Jin was stunned. This was a difficult question to answer. He had used beast coercion, an ability found in the Museum of Deadly Beasts. Naturally, he could release it from afar. But how was he supposed to explain this? Lin Jin's mind raced, and he finally came up with an idea. Appraiser Yin, to suppress the beast from afar requires a medium, Lin Jin answered. Appraiser Yin shook his head. Appraiser Yin shook his head. I know that, but Appraiser Lin, you didn't use any talismans or any other medium. I do. Lin Jin flicked his finger, and a silver needle instantly pierced the pillar with a loud pop. Chapter 477. The pillar wasn't too far away from the 10 rank 4 beast appraisers, so they could see it clearly. Silver needles? Appraiser Yin was stunned before realization dawned on him. I get it now. You're using silver needles as a medium to perform the beast suppression talisman. That's a brilliant idea. Of course, Appraiser Yin didn't ask about the specifics, as it involved the mysteries of spells. It wasn't the right time to ask about it. But if Lin Jin was willing to share, that would be a different story. Of course, Lin Jin wouldn't talk about it. In that case, the second question was considered a success. Lin Jin had also demonstrated his impressive needle manipulation skills, causing the rank 4 beast appraisers' eyes to light up. Following that, a few more rank 4 beast appraisers raised their questions. Some of their questions were tricky, while others required a highly skilled beast appraiser to answer. Their questions clearly surpassed the standard of a rank 3 beast appraiser and reached the rank 4 level of difficulty. Lin Jin answered all of their questions with sincerity and not a hint of arrogance. This made the rank 4 beast appraisers nod in approval. Neither arrogant nor haughty, and his beast appraisal skills were extraordinary. A person like this was definitely qualified to be promoted to rank 4 beast appraiser. Next, someone actually asked Lin Jin to appraise beasts. Of course, he didn't bring the beast here directly, but only brought some fur and other items. This was a difficult task for beast appraisers. After all, they were trying to figure out a whole by looking at the details. Fortunately, this was Lin Jin's forte. He could write evaluation reports on the spot. Lin Jin's evaluation reports clearly had his own style. His handwriting was meticulous and the content was accurate. No one who had read it before could find any fault with it. Lin Jin consecutively appraised 3 types of beasts, including their fur, blood, and scales. He completed all of them smoothly, and the content was accurate as well. Reading through Lin Jin's evaluation reports, most of the rank 4 beast appraisers, including Zhong Zifeng, nodded in approval. Of course, there were also some rank 4 beast appraisers who looked gloomy and dissatisfied. Appraiser Lin, that jade dragon behind you isn't your pet beast, is it? A rank 4 beast appraiser asked in an unfriendly tone. Lin Jin didn't hide the truth. This jade dragon isn't Lin Jin's pet beast. It's a rank 4 monster. The other beast appraisers weren't surprised. As top-notch beast appraisers in Middle State, how could they not tell that Senior MO was a rank 4 monster the moment it entered? However, to the beast appraisers of Merak headquarters, taming monsters wasn't anything out of the ordinary. It wasn't like some places where monsters were forbidden to exist. The rank 4 beast appraiser continued. You purposely brought this rank 4 monster here because you thought that a rank 4 beast appraiser's advancement test would be required. That's why you arranged for a familiar monster to help it advance from rank 4 to rank 5. Am I right? The other party was right. That was exactly what Lin Jin was thinking. Since they were going to take the advancement test, he might as well let Senior MO take advantage of it. That was why Lin Jin brought Senior MO along today. At Lin Jin's nod, the rank 4 beast appraiser reprimanded him angrily. Lin Jin, how dare you bring your petty tricks all the way to Merak City? Putting aside the fact that you're acting on your own and disregarding us, this jade dragon beast is already talented, and you've been observing it for a long time now. It's already showing signs of evolution. Do you really think you can pass just because you've evolved it? Oof, you're just messing around. The rank 4 beast appraiser's sudden reprimand stunned not only Lin Jin, but the other rank 4 beast appraisers were also surprised. However, this rank 4 beast appraiser was clearly standing on the side of reason. Although his words were a little extreme and sounded like he was being unreasonable, he did have a point. Indeed, a rank 4 beast appraiser's advancement couldn't be trifled with. Lin Jin didn't think too much about it, because the man wasn't entirely right. Jade Dragon MO was not a Jade Dragon with a high aptitude. On the contrary, it would be extremely difficult for it to ascend. After all, it was way too old for it to do so. It was over 200 years old. Its lifespan was about to run out. Even if it was showing signs of evolution, the difficulty of successfully evolving was far greater than other pet beasts rank 5. Hence, strictly speaking, Lin Jin wasn't trying to play tricks. Lin Jin didn't argue. After all, this evaluation was mainly about impression points. If he insisted on arguing with the man, even if he was proven right in the end, he would still lose points. Lin Jin wasn't that stupid. Moreover, this rank 4 beast appraiser was clearly trying to provoke a fight. Since he was a rank 4 beast appraiser, how could he not be able to tell Senior Mo's age? If he could tell, and even said so, what was inside was definitely worth savoring. Hence, Lin Jin smiled and didn't argue. The rank 4 beast appraiser probably didn't expect Lin Jin to back down and was surprised. Appraiser Yang Ming, you haven't asked your question yet. Appraiser Yin spoke up to smooth things over and at the same time pointed out the man's name. Yang Ming? Lin Jin remembered this name. He didn't know this man, so why was he digging a hole for him? Lin Jin had to be careful. All right, I'll ask my question then. Appraiser Yang Ming chuckled and glared at Lin Jin before saying, I value spellcasting. As a beast appraiser, it's necessary to be proficient in spellcasting. I'll give you the time it takes to brew a pot of tea and see if you can break this spell of mine. Lin Jin nodded. Having said that, Appraiser Yang Ming suddenly raised a finger. A ray of light shot out and struck Senior Mo, who was behind Lin Jin. Before the poor old dragon could react, it felt its body stiffen. A sharp pain shot through its head and limbs, causing it to wail in agony before collapsing to the ground, taking down a rank 4 monster with just one move. As expected of a rank 4 beast appraiser, Appraiser Yang Ming's strength was truly terrifying. Is this demonic wind? Appraiser Yin was stunned before he said, Appraiser Yang Ming, isn't this a little inappropriate? Instead, Yang Ming poured a cup of hot tea into it. Since this is a rank 4 beast appraiser's assessment, it's only right to be more serious. Appraiser Lin is knowledgeable, and his appraisal skills are admirable, so it's only reasonable to test his spellcasting skills. As for demonic wind, I'll remove it once the tea cools down. Appraiser Yan's tone was nonchalant. Appraiser Yan didn't know what else to say. However, everyone here knew that demonic wind was no joke. It was a high-level spell that only rank 4 beast appraisers could cultivate. Moreover, it was a secret skill of Appraiser Tianquan's headquarters. Its use was to instantly paralyze a class 4 or lower ferocious beast. It could also inflict horrifying torture on the other party. Most importantly, if this demonic wind spell was maintained for a long time, it would cause irreparable damage to the ferocious beast. Given Senior Mo's age, even with its strong physique, its lifespan might be shortened if the spell was used for too long. It might even be difficult for it to recover. Although Lin Jin didn't know about demonic wind, the moment he touched Senior Mo, the Museum of Deadly Beasts immediately provided him with an explanation of demonic wind. Lin Jin's expression darkened. This man was doing this on purpose. Lin Jin had never had any conflict with Yang Ming, nor had he met him before. There must be a reason why this man was making things difficult for him, but now wasn't the time to find out. Lin Jin had to save Senior Mo first, because Lin Jin noticed that other than demonic wind, the man had also cast another extremely obscure spell. Bone erosion. This was a vicious spell. However, the man had cast it so discreetly that no one would be able to notice it unless they looked carefully. In fact, even someone like Zhong Zifeng failed to notice Appraiser Yang Ming's concealment spell. Based on this point alone, Yang Ming's mastery of spells was definitely one of the best among the 10 rank 4 beast appraisers. Chapter 478. His opponent may be powerful, but Lin Jin wasn't a pushover either. Be it demonic wind or bone erosion, the Museum of Deadly Beasts had a way to counter them. In fact, Lin Jin had a way to counter them, even without the museum's methods. However, it was more troublesome. The Museum of Deadly Beasts methods were much easier, and there was more than one way to counter them. Not only could he counter them, but he could also use the opponent's spell to counterattack. Lin Jin wasn't a pushover. Appraiser Yang had been speaking in a hostile tone right from the start. He was clearly picking on Lin Jin on purpose. Other than that, Appraiser Yang's words were full of malicious intent. As for the test, the fact that the other party had suddenly cast a spell was even more overbearing. If he could not break the spell within the time it took to finish a cup of tea, Senior Mo would be in deep trouble. Even if the other party withdrew the spell after the time was up, the damage that had already been done would be irreparable. This was definitely a huge blow to Senior Mo Dragon. It was enough to ruin its future advancement, and even greatly shorten its lifespan. Since that was the case, there was no need for Lin Jin to hold back. Admittedly, he had to be courteous and humble in this rank 4 beast appraiser exam, but he couldn't just give in to everyone and allow himself to be manipulated. At least from Lin Jin's point of view, in order to become a rank 4 beast appraiser, other than vast knowledge and superb beast appraising skills, there was one more thing that was very important. That was drive. Humans must never lose their drive. Otherwise, how could they have the heart to improve themselves? To overcome obstacles, one had to have a strong will. If someone were to intentionally bully them and yet swallow their anger, how could they progress further in the beast appraiser realm with such a mindset? After some thought, Lin Jin made up his mind. He would fight back. At that moment, he performed a hand seal and reached out to grab at the air. It was as if he had grabbed hold of an invisible spell. Then, he forcibly extracted the spell from Senior Dragon Mo's body. At this sight, many of the rank 4 beast appraisers' eyes lit up in astonishment. What kind of technique is this? Is he trying to expel a spell? Doesn't seem like it. It's the spirit capturing claw. I didn't expect appraiser Lin to know a spell like this at such a young age. Impressive, impressive. Zhong Zifeng nodded in agreement. Brother Su, you have a keen eye. That's right. It's indeed the spirit capturing claw. Although appraiser Lin is a little rusty in using it, the person who taught him must be an expert among experts. Even if he's not familiar with it, it should be enough to repel appraiser Yang's demonic wind. At this point, Zhong Zifeng was taken aback, because they clearly saw Lin Jin using his spirit-capturing claw to pull out 2 spells from Senior Mo's body. It's a technique within a technique, someone exclaimed. Someone looked at Yang Ming, but the latter was expressionless. He was obviously unmoved. As such, no one asked any further questions. However, everyone knew in their hearts that if it was just a test of a spell, then using a spell within a spell would be a little overboard. After all, this kind of trick usually hid another powerful spell within a spell. It was extremely difficult to discover, and it would be even more difficult to dispel and break it. No one knew what appraiser Yang Ming's motive for doing this was, but it was obvious that appraiser Yang was deliberately making things difficult for Lin Jin. However, appraiser Yang Ming's status in Beast Appraiser headquarters wasn't low either. Among the 20-odd rank 4 Beast Appraisers, he was one of the top 6. Hence, even if they felt that Yang Ming had gone overboard in this matter, they couldn't say anything about it. After all, it was the examiner's freedom to ask questions and conduct the test. Meanwhile, Lin Jin had used the spirit-capturing claw taught in the Museum of Deadly Beasts to extract both demonic wind and bone erosion. At that instant, Senior Mo clearly felt much better. However, as if it had been drained of energy, it couldn't move for the time being. Holding the 2 balls of light in his hands, Lin Jin said, "Spells are condensed spells. It would be a pity to scatter them. I think I should return them to appraiser Yang Ming." Having said that, he flicked his wrist, and the 2 balls of light shot out at lightning speed, heading straight for Yang Ming. The crowd was stunned. They mused, "Lin Jin sure is something. What do you mean by it would be a pity to scatter spells? You're just finding an excuse to counterattack." Of course, some people frowned at Lin Jin's actions, while others smiled. However, it was obvious that most people were impressed. The reason was simple. Since appraiser Yang Ming had mentioned that this was a competition of spells, and he didn't mention that he couldn't counterattack, Lin Jin's actions were flawless. After all, the test wasn't over yet. More importantly, this was the temperament a rank 4 beast appraiser should have. They should never lose their drive at any time. Taking a beating without retaliating wasn't a quality a rank 4 beast appraiser should have. Of course, to achieve this, one must have the ability to do so. Lin Jin displayed his mastery of calligraphy. Not only did he manage to grab the piece of paper from Mo Yulong's body, but he was also able to use the man's spell to counterattack. Without the ability of a rank 4 beast appraiser, one wouldn't be able to do this. Based on this alone, Lin Jin's skills and spells were definitely at the level of a rank 4 beast appraiser. The younger generation will surpass us in time, appraiser Su praised. It was clear that he was pleased, but at the same time, there was a hint of helplessness in his voice. At his age, becoming a rank 4 beast appraiser was already his peak. It was almost impossible for him to advance any further. However, Lin Jin was different. If he could attain rank 4 at his age, he should have a chance of achieving rank 5 in the future. Hence, appraiser Su lamented. Looking at Yang Ming, he noticed that his expression was dark. The 2 balls of light were right in front of him in the blink of an eye. He had no choice but to receive them. Immediately, He raised his hand and grabbed. Using some unknown method, he actually grabbed and extinguished the 2 balls of arcane light. It seemed that he had done it with ease. Lin Jin grew wary at this. Appraiser Yang's skills were impressive. Lin Jin had to borrow the Museum of Deadly Beast Spirit Capturing Claw to barely break through and counterattack. Yet, Appraiser Yang managed to neutralize the 2 balls of light so easily, attacking, breaking, and counterattacking. This series of events was nothing short of spectacular. Seeing this, Appraiser Yin commented, "Appraiser Yang's skills are superb, but Appraiser Lin's deciphering wasn't too shabby either." This was considered a way to smooth things over. Appraiser Yang had been rather displeased since the beginning. However, when he heard Appraiser Yan's words, he chuckled. Not bad. To have such a high level of cultivation at such a young age, that's impressive. All right, that's the end of my test. Let's see what questions Mr. Zhong has to ask. He actually let it go just like that. Yang Ming clearly knew that with his status, it wouldn't look good if he deliberately made things difficult for Lin Jin. Or perhaps this was just his personality, and he wasn't trying to make things difficult for Lin Jin on purpose. After all, everyone knew that Appraiser Su and Lin Jin had no grudge against each other. Now, Mr. Zhong was the only one left among the 10-rank 4 beast appraisers. Chapter 479. Mr. Zhong was the most senior among the 10 appraisers, so it was only natural that he would be the last. Mr. Zhong chuckled. You've all tested Appraiser Lin in various aspects, so I don't think there's anything else I can ask. The only thing left is the advancement test. As a beast appraiser, the art of evolving pet beasts was the most valuable skill, but it was also the most difficult. For a rank 4 beast appraiser, they had a 100% success rate in evolving a rank 3 beast to rank 4. But that wasn't necessarily the case for rank 4 beast to rank 5. However, the rank 4 beast appraisers here all had experience with rank 4 beast appraisers. Most of them could already promote a rank 4 beast to rank 5. Of course, this would take time. Lin Jin was currently waiting for the test. It seemed like Mr. Zhong was going to test the most difficult advancement test. But to everyone's surprise, Mr. Zhong suddenly said, "I won't be taking the advancement test." The crowd was stunned, including Lin Jin. Not taking the advancement test? What test? Mr. Zhong continued, "Recently, I've been thinking that aside from being skillful, a rank 4 beast appraiser should also have the ability to teach. I'll have to trouble Appraiser Lin to teach in Heavenly Jade Academy for 3 months. If you can produce a rank 3 beast appraiser, I'll acknowledge you as a rank 4 beast appraiser." Lin Jin was stunned. He had long heard that Mr. Zhong didn't like to play by the rules, and today, it seemed like the rumors were true. Speaking of which, teaching was actually quite difficult, especially for a rank 3 beast appraiser. It might seem easy, but not everyone could get promoted. However, since Mr. Zhong was the one who proposed the test, the others wouldn't object. They didn't have the right to either. Of course, we'll vote later. If Appraiser Lin passes the test, you'll officially become a rank 4 beast appraiser. It's fine even if you don't participate in my test. Just treat it as me abstaining from the vote. I won't object to it, Mr. Zhong said. You can do that? Indeed, there were 10 people here. One less vote wouldn't affect the final result. After some thought, Lin Jin nodded in agreement. No matter what the result of the vote is, Lin Jin is willing to teach in Heavenly Jade Academy for 3 months. He had planned to stay in Heavenly Jade City for some time. After all, he had to convince Emperor Heavenly Jade to read the Dea Lord's Heavenly Scroll. This wasn't something that could be done in a day or two. Since that was the case, he could stay here for 3 months. More importantly, by doing so, he would be able to gain Mr. Zhong's favor. He was a leading figure in the beast appraiser community, so it would definitely be beneficial for him to befriend him. But before that, the 10 rank 4 beast appraisers would have to raise their hands to vote and see how many agreed. If there were less than half, Lin Jin would have to pack up and leave. It was useless even if he passed Mr. Zhong's test. On the other hand, if he could gain the recognition of most rank 4 beast appraisers, then according to the rules, he would be granted a rank 4 certification. From a certain point of view, Mr. Zhong's opinion was very important, but it was not the key to the decision. When the voting began, Appraiser Yin was the first to raise his hand, clearly showing his approval of Lin Jin. Following that, the other beast appraisers followed suit. At a glance, more than 5 people had raised their hands. Excluding Mr. Zhong, Lin Jin had gained the approval of most of the rank 4 beast appraisers here. Yang Ming was one of the rank 4 beast appraisers who didn't raise their hands. Just then, another rank 4 beast appraiser raised his hand. With this, there were now 6 beast appraisers who had approved of Lin Jin. In other words, no matter what Mr. Zhong's opinion was, Lin Jin had passed the rank 4 beast appraiser test and was now officially qualified. This was one of the benefits of appraiser headquarters. They weren't under the jurisdiction of the Heavenly Jade royal family, so they had great independence and autonomy. Hence, they could certify the qualifications of beast appraisers from other countries. It was also because of this that appraiser headquarters could become the number 1 sacred ground for beast appraisers in Zhongzhou. Congratulations, Appraiser Lin. Appraiser Yin stood up and said. The other rank 4 beast appraisers who had high hopes for Lin Jin also came forward to congratulate him. At the level of a rank 4 beast appraiser, the only thing that mattered to them was their abilities. Coincidentally, Lin Jin's ability to overcome all obstacles along the way had impressed them. Although they couldn't help but feel a little indignant and jealous, most of them were magnanimous enough to admit that he was a rising star who was younger than them and might even be more capable than them. Of course, there were also those who walked away without even greeting Lin Jin, including Appraiser Yang. Perhaps this was their personality, or perhaps they simply didn't like Lin Jin. It was obvious from the fact that none of them raised their hands earlier. But none of this could change the result of the rank 4 beast appraisers test. Lin Jin passed. Although Lin Jin knew he would definitely pass, he still felt a surge of excitement at actually passing the rank 4 beast appraisers test. After all, this was a form of acknowledgement of one's beast appraising skills. Appraiser headquarters acted swiftly. In just a few moments, a 4-ring sleeve band was delivered to Lin Jin. It was difficult to forge such an item. It was said that it required a special craftsmanship that made it difficult to replicate. Lin Jin took off his 3-ring sleeve band and put on the 4-ringed one. In an instant, he felt like his aura was different from before. Of course, this might just be an illusion. But without a doubt, wearing a 4-ring sleeve band would definitely cause a commotion outside. Even in Heavenly Jade City, there were only about 20 rank 4 beast appraisers. Mr. Zhong has returned. He said that Appraiser Lin is free to visit Heavenly Jade Academy anytime. Appraiser Yin said with a smile. Lin Jin saluted the man in thanks. Appraiser Yin had been busy helping him, and Lin Jin was naturally grateful. If it weren't for Appraiser Yin's help, Lin Jin would have had to put in more effort. After that, Appraiser Yin offered to accompany Lin Jin to Heavenly Jade Academy, but Lin Jin didn't want to trouble him. Hence, Appraiser Yin took his leave. Before he left, he said, "This is Appraiser Lin's first time in Heavenly Jade City. If there's anything you need help with, feel free to look for me." Having said that, he left. What a warm-hearted man, Lin Jin mumbled to himself. Lin Jin mumbled to himself. Then, he went to look for Jiang Tianhe. He had to let Appraiser Jiang know about this. After all, he was the one who arranged this from the start. Jiang Tianhe had already heard the news, so he was even more polite when he saw Lin Jin. After all, Lin Jin was now a true rank 4 beast appraiser. His status was much higher than a rank 3 beast appraiser like him. Upon hearing that Lin Jin would be staying in Heavenly Jade City for another 3 months, Jiang Tianhe understood. It would be inappropriate for Lin Jin to stay at an inn for such a long period of time. Appraiser Lin, I'll arrange a place for you to stay. Don't worry about it, Jiang Tianhe promised. Lin Jin thanked him and indicated that the money wouldn't be a problem. Chapter 480. Lin Jin wasn't short on money. Although he couldn't fork out a large sum of money, he could still fork out a few thousand taels. After leaving headquarters, Lin Jin had regained his composure. Although he was in a good mood, he wasn't overly excited. This was Heavenly Jade City. If he were in Jade Dragon City, his promotion to rank 4 would probably be made known to the entire city. There might even be a celebration or something like that. Right. I should write a letter to Appraiser Tan and tell him the good news. Lin Jin suddenly remembered that Appraiser Tan was the one who recommended him here. Now that there was an outcome, and a good one at that, Lin Jin had a right to Appraiser Tan right away. As for the others, forget it. There was no need for Lin Jin to write so many letters. After all, once Appraiser Tan received the letter, the others would know as well. With this in mind, Lin Jin returned to the inn. To Lin Jin's surprise, Gumengzhong was still sitting at a table on the first floor, reading the martial scripture with great interest. It had been 4 hours since Lin Jin left the house, and Gumengzhong returned. Gumengzhong had just sat there and read for 4 hours. As Lin Jin had instructed, the innkeeper didn't disturb him. However, Lin Jin could tell that the innkeeper was troubled as well. Lin Jin walked over and cleared his throat. Gumengzhong remained unmoved. He was still focused on his task, as if he was deep in thought about an unsolvable problem. Left with no choice, Lin Jin went up to Gumengzhong and patted him on the shoulder. Using some mana, he called out, "Master Gu." "Huh?" Gumengzhong was jolted awake by Lin Jin's voice. He shuddered and looked up. At first, he was a little angry because he didn't like being disturbed. But after realizing that it was Lin Jin, Gumengzhong broke into a smile. "Brother Lin, this martial scripture of yours is too amazing. It's simply a priceless treasure. Where did you get it from? Can I borrow it for a few more days?" Clearly, just like a child who had obtained his favorite toy, Gumengzhong was completely immersed in the martial sacred scripture. Lin Jin's martial arts foundation was weak, and he didn't have the time to spend more than a decade honing his skills. Hence, this martial Bible didn't mean much to him. However, it was different for Gumengzhong. Gumengzhong already had more than 10 years of sword training as a foundation. Now that he saw the martial sacred scripture, it was like adding wings to a tiger. Naturally, he treated it as a treasure. Lin Jin nodded. "Of course, Master Gu can watch it if you want. It doesn't matter if you watch it for a longer period of time. However, cultivation requires a certain amount of relaxation. Master Gu, why don't you take a break and have lunch first?" Lunch? Gumengzhong was stunned. In his memory, he hadn't finished his breakfast yet. Why was he having lunch already? When he looked outside, he was dumbfounded. It was obvious that he had been immersed in the holy scripture of martial and was completely unaware of the passage of time. He had no idea that so much time had passed. It was already past noon. At least 4 hours had passed. In a flash, Gumengzhong suddenly remembered that Lin Jin was going to headquarters to take the rank 4 assessment today. His first thought was to ask about it, but then he noticed the rank 4 beast tattoo on Lin Jin's sleeve. In an instant, Gumengzhong's eyes widened. "Brother Lin, you passed?" Lin Jin nodded with a smile. "Although there were some twists and turns, I passed in the end." "Haha, great. That's great." Gumengzhong was elated. "How can we not celebrate such a good thing? Innkeeper, bring us some good food and wine. Let's celebrate today." Lin Jin didn't stop him. This was indeed a cause for celebration. As for the fact that he still had to report to Heavenly Jade Academy in the afternoon, Lin Jin wasn't worried. At his level of cultivation, he could easily dissolve the effects of alcohol even if he drank an entire jar of strong liquor. Senior M.O., who had been silent the entire morning, finally spoke up to congratulate Lin Jin. Senior M.O. was frightened out of his wits at the Beast Appraisal Association headquarters. At first, he didn't think much of a rank 4 beast appraiser, thinking that he was just like the rank 3 beast appraisers in Jade Dragon Kingdom. But after going there, he realized that a rank 4 beast appraiser was much stronger than a rank 3 beast appraiser. At that time, the pressure it felt was unprecedented. Moreover, when that appraiser named Yang Ming attacked him, Senior M.O. couldn't even put up a fight. Truth be told, if it had encountered appraiser Yang outside, a rank 4 Jade Dragon, it would have been killed by him in a matter of minutes. A rank 4 beast appraiser was too terrifying. Having learned a lot, Senior M.O. now understood that Appraiser Lin was someone that he should never let go of once he had latched onto. Only by sticking close to Appraiser Lin would he be able to live a good life. Although the dishes on the table weren't top-notch, Lin Jin and Gu Mengzhong enjoyed themselves. After dinner, Lin Jin returned to his room to rest while Senior Imo stood guard at the door. Inside, Lin Jin used a spell to disperse the smell of alcohol and instantly felt refreshed. He had lent the martial scripture to Gu Mengzhong to study for the time being. Given time, Gu Mengzhong's swordsmanship would definitely improve. Lin Jin suddenly remembered something he got from that young master's room last night. That strange black wooden box. Taking it out, Lin Jin noticed several talismans pasted on it. He reached out to touch it. Instantly, there was a commotion inside the Museum of Deadly Beasts. Spirit Suppression Talisman. Lin Jin read the words on the stone tablet inside the museum. Other than the name, there was also an introduction. Written by a cultivator using a mixture of beast blood, it has the effect of suppressing spirit items and evil spirits. It was simple and easy to understand. However, the appearance of this item here made one's imagination run wild. What was inside this black wooden box that was worth using a spirit suppression talisman to suppress? Moreover, Lin Jin could clearly see that the spirit suppression talismans on the black wooden box had been repeatedly removed and reattached. Some of them were broken and new talismans were pasted on top. It seemed like there were several layers of talismans pasted on top. Someone must have frequently opened and closed the box. Why? Obviously, to take whatever was inside and put it back after using it. At this, Lin Jin pondered for a moment before reaching out to remove the spirit suppression talisman and open the black wooden box. With Lin Jin's current cultivation level, he could suppress spirit items and evil spirits with just his mana alone. After opening the box, Lin Jin saw a dagger inside. The dagger was sheathless and glowed crimson. Streaks of crimson intertwined on its surface as if resentful spirits were wailing in the crimson. Lin Jin could vaguely hear the soul-stirring sound. The dagger's hilt was so short that it was impossible to hold it. This reminded Lin Jin of a sword. A flying sword. It was a flying sword. It was a magic weapon often used by ancient cultivators. However, after the rise of blood contract cultivators, flying swords gradually faded from the public sight. After all, blood contract cultivators had little spirit energy, so it was difficult to control a flying sword. Moreover, with pet beasts around, why would they need to use a flying sword? However, it was undeniable that flying swords had their own strengths. For example, it could be used to kill an enemy from 1,000 miles away without making a sound. Lin Jin had once heard about immortal cultivators who relied on a flying sword to stay at home and drink wine. The flying sword could transcend one's potential and slay their target. Even now, this method seemed extremely unfathomable and unbelievable. Lin Jin could tell that this flying sword was no ordinary item, with a spirit ghost lingering around it. It was a flying sword with a strong, murderous aura. Out of curiosity, Lin Jin searched the wooden box to see if there was a corresponding flying sword incantation. But to his disappointment, Lin Jin didn't find what he was looking for. Without a flying sword incantation, this item wasn't that valuable anymore. That young master must have only used it as a regular dagger after obtaining it. He must have put it back after using it because something terrible would happen if he didn't. Lin Jin didn't need it, but there was one person who could. Shang. Her object manipulation skill had reached an extremely high level. She was used to wielding swords and sabers, so it shouldn't be a problem for her to wield this flying sword. Hence, Lin Jin put the flying sword away, thinking that he could give it to Shang as a gift when he returned. She would definitely like it. Just then, the blood energy on the sword suddenly rippled. It rumbled as if a sharp claw was reaching out. Apart from that, a face seemed to be trying to charge out from the blood mist. It was a horrifying sight. Lin Jin sneered. Channeling his mana, flames burned on his palm. With a push of his hand, he forcefully pushed back the blood energy. In an instant, the dagger returned to normal. Closing the lid, Lin Jin pasted the spirit suppression talisman back on before shoving it under his bed. Chapter 481. This was Lin Jin's second time entering Heavenly Jade Academy. This time, his identity was completely different from before. Before, he was just a spectator. Now, he was a teacher of Heavenly Jade Academy. As an official Rank 4 Beast Appraiser, he was more than qualified to be a teacher of Heavenly Jade Academy. Coincidentally, the Academy had arranged for Lin Jin to be received by the young teacher who supervised Tan Lin and Jiang Fengfeng's match in the Beast Appraisal Pavilion. Appraiser Lin, my name is Wang Xian. Feel free to look for me if you need anything from now on. Wang Xian was a friendly man. Even though Lin Jin was younger than him, the man didn't show any signs of disrespect or neglect. Clearly, this had something to do with Lin Jin's identity as a Rank 4 Beast Appraiser. Wang Xian knew that Appraiser Lin was a newcomer, so he enthusiastically accompanied him around Heavenly Jade Academy to introduce the layout of the academy. Lin Jin was naturally most interested in the Beast Appraisal Pavilion. There were tens of thousands of beast specimens there, and to Lin Jin, these were priceless treasures. If he could collect them all in the museum, he would definitely be able to trigger another reward mechanism. Lin Jin was looking forward to this. As for the other parts of the academy, Lin Jin wasn't as interested. However, he still had to know what he needed to know. As they walked, Wang Xian introduced the place to Lin Jin. When they arrived at a spacious hall, Wang Xian said, "Appraiser Lin, this is Heavenly Jade Academy's first lecture hall. It has a long history, and from what I can see, if you were to start a class, this should be your first one. After all, this is a custom of the Academy's teachers." Starting a class in the first lecture hall was an auspicious and good omen. It was also a symbol of identity and status. Lin Jin nodded. He could understand this kind of rule. The so-called good start had to go through this kind of formality. Moreover, looking at the first lecture hall, it was indeed majestic. The details of the entire hall were also very worth pondering. Entering it, one would immediately feel a sense of awe. Needless to say, Lin Jin had the urge to give a lecture in this hall. It would definitely be a great experience. I plan to start my first class tomorrow. Lin Jin revealed his plan. On the way here, Wang Xian had already explained the Academy's rules to Lin Jin. Teachers of the Academy, especially those who had reached Rank 4, were not only allowed to take in specialized students, but they were also required to conduct at least one public lecture every month. The so-called public lecture meant that it was open to everyone. If one's own students could come, other students could also come. In fact, despite the large number of students in Heavenly Jade Academy, only a small number of them were able to study under a Rank 4 Beast Appraiser. Most of the students could only follow the public courses. Of course, most of the time, the lecturers were Rank 3 instructors like Wang Xian. However, it was due to the presence of Rank 4 Beast Appraisers that Heavenly Jade Academy became a sacred place for Beast Appraisers in the Central Continent. Since Lin Jin was going to be teaching at Heavenly Jade Academy for 3 months, he would definitely treat this matter seriously. Hence, he planned to conduct his first public lecture tomorrow. Lin Jin had no idea what he should do. Wang Xian smiled and said, "Although the Academy has many rules, they are for the students." "Sir, there aren't that many rigid rules. There's a notice board in front of the study hall. Let's go see if there are other teachers giving lectures tomorrow. If there are, we can avoid it. If there aren't, we just have to write a notice and put it up." At this, Lin Jin immediately went over to take a look. Sure enough, there was a notice board with the lecture hall schedule for the next few days written on it. Clearly, there were already plans for today. The morning class with Appraiser Han Xian had ended. Tomorrow's class column was still empty. This was easy to understand. Lin Jin understood it immediately. "That's easy," Lin Jin said. "What a coincidence. There aren't any other beast appraisers occupying the space tomorrow morning. Appraiser Lin, you could just put up the notice." After Wang Xian said that, Lin Jin picked up a pen and paper beside him. After some thought, he wrote down a topic: Beast Appraising Skills Improvement Lecture. Lin Jin felt that those who could enroll in Heavenly Jade Academy were at least official Rank 1 Beast Appraisers. Many of them were Rank 2 Beast Appraisers, and they all had a solid foundation. Hence, Lin Jin could skip the basics. What they wanted was improvement. Hence, Lin Jean skipped the basics and focused on beast appraising skills improvement. This should be to everyone's liking. Of course, Lin Jean was full of ideas, so the content of his lecture would be of great value. Lin Jean was very confident about this. Even if he couldn't do it himself, he had the Museum of Deadly Beasts to back him up. Hence, he didn't have to worry about not having anything to talk about. After he was done, Lin Jean signed his name. Wang Xian's eyes lit up. Appraiser Lin, your handwriting is really good. This was a sincere compliment. It wasn't intentional. Indeed, Lin Jin's handwriting was well developed. It was showing signs of forming a school of its own. Lin Jin smiled, but didn't say anything. That's it? Lin Jin asked. Wang Xian nodded. Yes, this is a public lecture. Whoever comes first gets to talk first. Since you've taken up this spot, the other beast appraisers will choose another time to teach when they arrive. After this matter was settled, Lin Jin couldn't hold himself back anymore, so he volunteered to take a look at the Beast Evaluation Pavilion. Wang Xian obviously wouldn't turn him down. Moreover, he knew that Appraiser Lin was invited by Mr. Zhong to Heavenly Jade Academy, so he couldn't afford to slight him. Mr. Zhong usually didn't have so many requests, but as long as he took the initiative to raise it, it meant that Mr. Zhong was very concerned about this matter. This showed how much Mr. Zhong valued Appraiser Lin. On the way to the Beast Evaluation Pavilion, Lin Jin unexpectedly ran into a familiar face. It was Li Xinqi. She was walking with a few other students, chatting and laughing. When she spotted Lin Jin, her eyes lit up. Appraiser Lin, why are you here again? Lin Jin smiled. He had a deep impression of Li Xinqi. After all, she was the one who led the way when he got lost in the academy yesterday. I'm here to be a teacher, so of course I have to come, Lin Jin said nonchalantly. However, Li Xinqi's first reaction was disbelief. This was Heavenly Jade Academy. It wasn't easy to become an academy teacher. But the next moment, Li Xinqi noticed Wang Xian standing beside Lin Jin. She obviously recognized Teacher Wang. Startled, she hurried over to greet him. Not only her, but the students beside her also came forward and bowed respectfully. All right, I still have something to attend to. I'll be giving my first lecture in Lecture Hall 1 tomorrow morning. You can come and listen to it. It'll be good for you, Lin Jin said to Li Xinqi before walking forward. Wang Xian didn't respond to the students' greetings at all. Instead, he smiled and nodded at Li Xinqi. The reason was simple. Li Xinqi and Appraiser Lin were acquaintances. If not, Wang Xian estimated that he would not even look at her. Chapter 482. Appraiser Lin this way. Wang Xian continued to lead the way enthusiastically, leaving the dumbfounded Li Xinqi and her group behind. Xinqi, who was that? Is he a teacher of the academy? Why haven't I seen him before? A tall student asked curiously. His name is Lin Jin. He's from Tamlin's hometown, and he's here for the Rank 4 evaluation. Wait a minute, Li Xinqi suddenly realized what was going on and turned to look at Lin Jin's sleeve. Instantly, her breathing quickened. A 4-ring sleeve. She rubbed her eyes. She wasn't mistaken. It was indeed a 4-ring sleeve. In an instant, Li Xinqi froze on the spot. In fact, she wasn't the only one who saw it. The other students saw it too. A Rank 4 beast appraiser? My God. He looked about the same age as me. I'm only a Rank 1 beast appraiser. He said he's going to be a teacher. Looks like he's right. A Rank 4 beast appraiser is naturally qualified to be a teacher in the academy. Xinqi, you found yourself a powerful backer. Right? Does he accept students? Xinqi, can you help me ask? I've been here for so long, but I haven't officially acknowledged him as a teacher yet. No wonder Teacher Wang was so eager. TSK. He's a Rank 4 beast appraiser. Xinqi, is this Appraiser Lin really from Tanlin's hometown? Faced with her friend's bombardment of questions, Li Xinqi couldn't hear them clearly. It took her a long time to recover. Truth be told, when Appraiser Lin came yesterday, she didn't think he could pass the Rank 4 evaluation. After all, a Rank 4 beast appraiser might not even appear once a year. There were many Rank 3 beast appraisers who wanted to take the Rank 4 evaluation every year, but most of them failed. Even veteran beast appraisers failed. Li Xinxi had witnessed with her own eyes how an elderly beast appraiser she knew had failed 3 consecutive rank 4 appraisals. After all, that old beast appraiser was highly skilled and knowledgeable. It was already difficult for someone like him to become a rank 4 beast appraiser. Who would have thought that Appraiser Lin would pass on his first try? Not to mention, he could even become a teacher in Heavenly Jade Academy. Unbelievable. Just then, Li Xinxi recalled Tan Lin's evaluation of Appraiser Lin. It's no wonder Tan Lin always holds Appraiser Lin in high regard. Right? Appraiser Lin mentioned that he'll be giving a public lecture tomorrow morning. I have to attend it. Li Xinxi made up her mind. She was not as talented as Tan Lin. In the entire academy, she was considered a very ordinary person. It was almost impossible for someone like her to become the student of a rank 4 beast appraiser. But now, she saw a glimmer of hope. I must attend the public lecture tomorrow. Lin Jin obviously had no idea what Li Xinxi was thinking. He was very excited as well. Previously, he had been eyeing this beast evaluation hall, but it was a pity he couldn't get in. Now, he finally had a legitimate identity and a reason to enter. Appraiser Lin, this is the Beast Appraisal Hall. I don't think there's a place like this in the entirety of Continent Center. The hall has 4 floors and a total of 72 rooms. 10 of these rooms are filled with wonders, Wang Xian explained. Lin Jin nodded as he listened, his eyes darting around. He could smell the auras of various beasts. Inside the Beast Appraisal Hall is a collection of tens of thousands of beast fur specimens from all over the world. There's even a complete set of beast appraisal reports. This is the culmination of the compilation of generations of pavilion masters. Every 5 years, new content will be added while incorrect content will be deleted. This is the ultimate treasure of the entire Heavenly Jade Academy. When Wang Xian introduced it here, he was also proud. Indeed, there were at least hundreds of books on the level of the beast appraisal reports. They contain descriptions and descriptions of beasts from all over the world. Lin Jin was only aware of this. He also knew that the beast appraisal reports was, in a sense, the same as the Museum of Deadly Beasts. However, the museum was clearly more mysterious and powerful. At least the Museum of Deadly Beasts could directly appraise a beast. No matter how strange or bizarre the beast was, the museum could identify it clearly and in great detail. This was something that nothing else could compare to. Usually, only Mr. Zhong is in the Beast Appraisal Hall, completing the beast appraisal reports. Other beast appraisers would occasionally come as well. Wang Xian pointed to the 2nd floor. But Mr. Zhong isn't here now. At this hour, he should be teaching his students. Lin Ji nodded. He mused, this is a great opportunity. Appraiser Wang, I'd like to take a look around the Beast Appraisal Hall. Feel free to do as you please, don't mind me. After Lin Jin said that, Wang Xian didn't think much of it. After all, Lin Jin wasn't the only one who visited the Beast Appraisal Hall. Teachers who came here for the first time would usually take a stroll around the place, since it was so famous. All right then, Appraiser Lin, I won't disturb you any longer. Having said that, Wang Xian saluted him and left. Now, Lin Jin was the only one left in the massive Beast Appraisal Hall. However, it was impossible for a place like this to be defenseless. Lin Jin could vaguely sense a unique aura here. Although it was extremely well hidden, it definitely existed. This aura was similar to a monster's aura. However, Lin Jin could ignore it. After all, he was an outsider. He was now an official teacher of the academy, so coming to the Beast Appraisal Hall was only natural. And so, Lin Jin couldn't hold it in any longer and began his recording plan from the 1st floor. There were 15 rooms on the 1st floor, and they were densely packed with cabinets. They looked a bit like the small square drawers in a medicine shop, but they weren't filled with medicinal herbs, but with the furs and skins of various beasts. Outside the cabinets, there was a specialized catalog that recorded the items in each cabinet. Of course, it was only a rough record and not a detailed one. Lin Jin began taking them out one by one to study and touch them. Some were pelts, some were teeth and claws, and there were even some tails and scales. Lin Jin couldn't care less about the descriptions of these items. He touched them all and immediately put them back, because anything Lin Jin touched would be recorded into the Museum of Deadly Beasts. Saber-toothed hog, rank 3. Thousand-strength four-armed ape, rank 4. Earth-toppling bull, rank 2. Lin Jin recorded them one by one. Although he wasn't fast, the quantity was guaranteed. In just a short while, Lin Jin had recorded more than 100 pet beast information into the museum. It was much faster than outside. Moreover, many of them were rare beasts. What great place! Lin Jin couldn't resist rubbing his hands together in excitement. From an outsider's perspective, Lin Jin was fooling around and rummaging around blindly. After all, he only took a quick glance at one drawer before putting it back and opening the second one. Normal beast appraisers wouldn't be so sloppy when studying these things. About half an hour later, Lin Jin finally finished recording all the pet beast information in one of the rooms on the first floor. Lin Jin immediately rushed to the second room. While Lin Jin was happily recording the pet beast information, inside one of the rooms on the fourth floor of the Beast Appraisal Hall, a person who was reading a book was startled when he heard the commotion below. In a flash, the person appeared outside the door. Chapter 483. This person's speed was simply astounding. Most importantly, this person's movements were so fast that they didn't make a single sound. With another move, he was already on the first floor. His movements were even more elusive than a ghost's. Also, this person was like a shadow on the fourth floor, his features indistinguishable. But on the first floor, he looked completely different. He looked like a skinny old man. The old man was dressed in a simple yet clean robe. He was spotless from head to toe. His white beard and hair gave him an air of immortality. His eyes widened, and in an instant, his vision was filled with vibrant colors. Through the walls, he could see Lin Jin, who was randomly rummaging through the rooms. The old man didn't move, but continued to study him curiously, clearly puzzled by Lin Jin's odd behavior. He watched as long as Lin Jin was rummaging. When Lin Jin was about to come out from the second room, the old man seemed to be deep in thought. With a swift movement, he returned to the room on the fourth floor. Clearly, the old man didn't like to be discovered or disturbed. Perhaps the old man had already confirmed that the person below was a teacher from the academy, so he couldn't be bothered to pay any more attention to him despite his odd behavior. Lin Jin came out of the room and looked around suspiciously. That's strange. Why did I feel like someone was spying on me? Lin Jin mumbled to himself. Afraid that his senses weren't strong enough, he asked Xiaohua. Xiaohua didn't notice anything out of the ordinary either. Forget it. Let's continue. Lin Jin felt like he was overthinking things. More importantly, he was currently immersed in the joy of quickly collecting information on the beasts. He was too excited. It felt like reaping without sowing. It was even better than copying homework. After collecting 2 rooms, Lin Jin had added more than 500 beasts to the Museum of Deadly Beasts. This was something unimaginable in the past. Regardless of the beasts he collected, the space inside the museum grew larger. However, he was still far from reaching the next reward. Hence, Lin Jin dashed into the third room. It wasn't until the sky turned dark that Lin Jin finally finished collecting information on the 15 rooms on the first floor and more than 4,000 beasts. Half a day's work was equivalent to several months of work for Lin Jin. Just as the number of pet beasts Lin Jin collected exceeded 10,000, the Museum of Deadly Beasts finally announced another reward. The deterrence power of a high-level beast. It was finally here. Lin Jin had been waiting for this advanced beast deterrence ability for so long that the flowers had withered. Upon closer inspection, this advanced beast deterrence ability could deter beasts below rank 5. Of course, it was not a 100% success rate for rank 5 beasts. Against rank 5 beasts with unique abilities or rare bloodlines, Lin Jin's deterrence might fail. But even if it failed, it could still affect the ferocious beast. At this point, Lin Jin was slightly disappointed. After all, it was still a far cry from the high-level deterrence he had hoped for. But relatively speaking, it was better than nothing. Lin Jin was in high spirits. Even if the sky turned dark, he had no intention of going back. Anyway, Mr. Zhong was not back yet, so he could just continue. And so, Lin Jin leaped to the second floor. In an instant, Lin Jin's busy figure filled the beast evaluation hall. The figure in a room on the fourth floor was startled again. This time, the silhouette took on the appearance of the old man from before. Just like before, he appeared outside in the same eerie manner. Just like before, he observed Lin Jin's every move through the wall. But this time, the old man seemed to have discovered something interesting as his eyes glinted with curiosity. And this time, the old man didn't return. Instead, he moved and instantly appeared behind Lin Jin in one of the rooms on the second floor. It was completely silent. But at this distance, Lin Jin sensed something. Lin Jin immediately turned around and was startled to see the old man staring at him. Anyone else would have been startled to find someone standing silently behind them. The old man had a dignified demeanor and a dignified aura. One look and Lin Jin could tell that this was no ordinary person. As Lin Jin was new here, he didn't know much about the Beast Evaluation Hall. Wang Xin did mention that teachers from the academy would often visit the Beast Evaluation Hall to browse through books. So, Lin Jin assumed this old man to be one of the academy's teachers. The old man had his hands behind his back and Lin Jin couldn't see the beast pattern on his sleeves. But based on his imposing manner and mysterious movement skills, Lin Jin dared not be negligent. Lin Jin immediately saluted the old man. "Is something the matter, old sir? It must be something. Otherwise, why would the old man be standing behind Lin Jin and staring at him so intently?" Upon Lin Jin's inquiry, the old man answered, "Ever since you came in, you've been rummaging around. Is there a deeper meaning to this?" Gasp. Lin Jin mused, "This old man is really observant. But there was no one around me earlier, so how did this old man notice?" Lin Jin recalled the strange feeling of being spied on. Now, it seemed like it was this old man. As for what method he used, Lin Jin had no idea. Speaking of which, Lin Jin knew very well that his actions of quickly touching various bee specimens were indeed puzzling. Judging by the old man's age, he must be a veteran beast appraiser, so Lin Jin had to show him some basic respect. Lin Jin's mind raced as he replied, "Old sir, this is Lin Jin's first time here. I've only just arrived at the academy today, and I've long heard that Heavenly Spiral Academy's Beast Evaluation Hall has tens of thousands of bee specimens, so out of curiosity, I decided to take a look. There's no deeper meaning to this. If I'm disturbing you, Lin Jin will take his leave now. After all, it was getting late, and Mr. Zhong would probably be back soon. It didn't matter if he left now, since there were still 3 months left. It was more than enough time for him to collect all the specimens in the Beast Evaluation Hall, so he wasn't in a hurry. The old man studied Lin Jin from head to toe. "A new teacher of the academy? I noticed spirit energy circulating around your fingertips when you touched the specimen earlier. Is it a secret beast appraisal technique?" This time, Lin Jin was truly shocked. Ever since he borrowed the Museum of Deadly Beasts to appraise beasts, no one had ever noticed this. Not even Lin Jin himself knew that spirit energy would circulate around his fingertips when he touched the specimen. Hence, he was dumbfounded. The old man asked again, "Let me ask you, what's in drawer 217 in room 3 on the first floor? What kind of beast does it belong to?" Lin Jin immediately had an answer. Not only did he know what was inside the drawer and what kind of beast it was, but he also knew its detailed information. However, Lin Jin deliberately said, I don't remember." He had to keep a low profile. However, the old man looked at him in disbelief. "You don't remember? I think you're lying to me on purpose. What you used just now must be a unique beast appraisal technique. How about this? You teach me this secret technique, and I'll teach you a corresponding secret technique. I won't let you suffer any losses. What do you think?" Upon closer inspection, the old man's eyes were burning with passion. He was clearly convinced that Lin Jin had mastered a special beast appraisal technique. Admittedly, this old man had exceptional judgment. He was definitely no average person. But Lin Jean couldn't admit it. Old sir, Lin Jean really doesn't know what kind of beast appraisal technique it is. I was just curious, so I touched it with my hand. That's touch of the 6 methods of beast appraisal. If old sir would like to listen to the 6 methods of beast appraisal, Lin Jean can explain a little. Lin Jean feigned ignorance and tried to smooth things over. The old man pondered for a moment. Then, as if he had thought of something, he turned around and left. Lin Jean mused, what a weirdo. Fortunately, he left. Now, Lin Jean didn't dare to stay in the beast appraisal hall any longer. He might just lure the old man out again, so he left quietly. However, just as he stepped out of the door, a fairy-like girl dressed in green appeared like a phantom in the hall on the first floor. She stared at Lin Jin's departing figure. Why'd he leave so suddenly? I was thinking that if I changed my appearance to meet him, he might just tell me the secret technique. Didn't they say that young men can't resist beauty? My appearance should be enough to topple cities, right? It could be seen that the green-clothed girl had a puzzled expression on her face. Just then, a figure entered the hall. It was Zhong Zifeng. The green-clothed girl's figure flashed, and she instantly disappeared without a trace. Zhong Zifeng obviously saw that figure as well. The latter was stunned. He had bumped into Lin Jean earlier, and they even exchanged a few words. But when he returned, he was greeted by the sight of that beautiful girl in green. Zhong Zifeng wasn't surprised. Instead, he froze for a moment before heading up to the 4th floor of the Beast Appraisal Hall. Then, he bowed at a large painting on the wall. Senior Shu, do you have any instructions for me? There was no response, but if one looked closely, the huge painting seemed to be an inner room. There were tables and chairs inside, and there were a few paintings hanging on the wall. There were old men, elegant young masters, green-clothed girls, and all kinds of strange beasts. It was a painting within a painting. If Lin Jean was here, he would have recognized the old man on the wall. It was the same old man he saw earlier. Other than that, the people in the paintings were all wearing sleeves with beast patterns. If one counted them carefully, one would be shocked to find 5 beast patterns. 5 rings of beast pattern sleeves. Zhong Zifeng didn't get a response. After waiting for a while, he could only slowly leave. But before he left, he glanced at the inscription on the painting. There was a name written on it. Xiao Shu Lu. If Big Brother and Second Brother were to ascend the throne, it would be fine if Imperial Father was still alive. But if Imperial Father is gone, I'm afraid I won't be able to live for long. Feng Ziqian couldn't help but shudder at the thought of a terrible ending. Everyone else was dumbfounded and felt pity for him. He Qing thought about it and said, "It'd be great if you were a woman. You wouldn't have a chance to ascend the throne anyway, and no one would be coveted." Upon hearing this, even the usually cold Madame Ghostchild couldn't help but burst into laughter. Speaking of which, although Feng Ziqian was the 3rd prince of Heavenly Spiral Nation, he did live in fear every day. He was even worse than Black Crow, Madame Ghostchild, and even Old Tion. They were either villainous experts who enjoyed their freedom, or they occupied a mountain and enjoyed their own pleasures. Although their statuses couldn't compare to Feng Ziqian's, at least they were comfortable. They didn't have to be afraid all the time, and they didn't have to rack their brains to scheme against others. Lin Jean listened to Feng Ziqian's complaints. But to be honest, he couldn't be of much help. Lin Jean wasn't interested in helping with the fight for the throne, but he had his own bottom line. He couldn't let anyone plot against Feng Ziqian or even harm him. If that happened, it would be much more difficult for Lin Jean to borrow heavenly tomes from Heavenly Spiral Nation's royal family. After some thought, Lin Jean said, "Find a chance to get in touch with Lin Jean. Also, if there's anything you need help with, feel free to let me know. As long as it's within our capabilities, both Lin Jean and I will do our best." This was what Feng Ziqian was waiting for. "Curator, it's my father's birthday soon. My brothers have prepared many gifts, and they've even invited many experts. I was thinking..." Feng Ziqian hesitated. Lin Jean understood. "If you want gifts, I don't have any. But if you want to make a trip to Heavenly Spiral City, I can." Feng Ziqian was overjoyed. This was what he wanted. For a prince to ascend to the throne, he had to have his own forces, and that included people with special abilities in Jianghu. After all, Tianqian wasn't the only big country in the world. Moreover, there were many other big countries in terms of strength and status that were on par with the big countries. For example, Daluo Temple and Phoenix Palace. Just then, Feng Ziqian turned to Zhao Jingyan. "Great Commander Zhao, how's Phoenix Palace doing?" Feng Ziqian's expression was heated. If Zhao Jingyan could take care of Phoenix Palace and back him up, that would be great. Zhao Jingyan looked grim as she shook her head. "It's not that simple. Although Curator helped me rise from the ashes, it'll take some time for me to regain control of Phoenix Palace." Zhao Jingyan didn't say anything else, but it was easy to imagine. Zhao Jingyan was already very powerful. On second thought, Lin Jin knew that Li Xinqi must have told Tan Lin about his lecture. Knowing Tan Lin's personality, she would definitely come. However, they weren't the type to be so impulsive, so why would they start a fight? Lin Jin immediately frowned when he heard what was going on. Wang Xian paled, at a loss of what to do. Even if this teacher Lin was the one who decided it first, Teacher Yang Ming has a very important lecture to give. Why can't Teacher Lin change his lecture to another time? The one who spoke was Jiang Fengfeng. Lin Jin had seen her compete with Tan Lin a few days ago, and it was obvious that they were at odds with each other. However, Jiang Fengfeng was indeed shrewd for her to be so arrogant, even after losing. Tan Lin did not back down. First come, first served. According to the rules of the academy, since Mr. Lin Jin had decided to use the first lecture hall this morning, the other teachers could only postpone it. Otherwise, they had to make their appointments before him. Why should they push Mr. Lin Jin's class back? That's right. What right do they have? Li Xinqi's face was flushed with anger as she defended Lin Jin. Glancing at the notice board next to them, the lecturer noticed that Lin Jin had pasted up had been torn down and replaced with another one. The lecturer was none other than appraiser Yang Ming. Chapter 485. At this point, how could Lin Jin not know what was going on? He turned to Wang Xian, wanted to ask if something like this had ever happened in Heavenly Jade Academy before. If so, how should it be handled? The latter knew what Lin Jin was getting at, so he whispered, "Appraiser Lin, this rarely happens in the past, but it does happen occasionally. Basically, it's because there's a conflict between teachers, and they use this as an excuse to spar with each other. Of course, if one side gives in, there won't be any conflict." So something similar had happened in the past. Moreover, this was equivalent to a provocation and whether the other party was willing to back down. That made things easier. Logically speaking, not only was Lin Jin a newcomer, but he had also just officially become a rank 4 beast appraiser yesterday. Even if someone were to provoke him, he should give in. But Lin Jin knew one thing. If he gave in, he would have to give in. If his skills were inferior or he wasn't strong enough, it was fine to give in. However, Lin Jin didn't think he was inferior to appraiser Yang. More importantly, Yang Ming had been making things difficult for him during the rank 4 assessment yesterday, and this was the second time. Although Lin Jin had no idea how he offended appraiser Yang to the extent that the latter kept targeting him, Lin Jin wasn't a pushover. Especially since this was his first lecture and appraiser Yang was trying to put him in his place. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't seem appropriate. Hence, Lin Jin chose to not give in. Why should he? After making up his mind, Lin Jin stepped forward. The students arguing in front of the hall noticed Lin Jin and Wang Xian's arrival. Most of them might not know Lin Jin, but Wang Xian had been in the academy for a long time, so he knew everyone. "Teacher Wang." The students bowed. Wang Xian also timely introduced, "This is the new teacher of the academy, Teacher Lin Jin." Many people were taken aback. He was Lin Jin, while Tan Lin and Jiang Fengfeng were arguing over this. Many students knew that situations like this where a teacher had to take over another scheduled class was usually due to a conflict between teachers. Generally speaking, the weaker party would give in to the stronger party. This was definitely true. To them, since Teacher Lin Jin was new here, He must be the weaker party. Hence, logically speaking, he should have given in to teacher Yangming. But what Lin Jin said next left them dumbfounded. I'll be teaching in a while. Those who want to listen can come in, but keep quiet. Don't make noise or quarrel. Having said that, Lin Jin walked over and glanced at Yang Ming's lecture notice on the bulletin board. Then, he tore it down. Everyone was shocked, and their hearts beat wildly when they saw this scene. Fierce. How fierce. This new teacher actually didn't give teacher Yang Ming any face. He just wanted to tear him apart. This kind of temperament immediately won the favor of many students. Many of the students of the academy were young and full of vigor and vigor. They liked teachers with such personalities the most. After all, they weren't fools. Who couldn't tell that teacher Yang Ming was bullying the new teacher with his seniority? In the end, teacher Lin Jin didn't give teacher Yang any face. This time, there's going to be a good show to watch, someone thought to himself. However, his face was filled with eagerness. No matter where it was, people's love for drama had not changed at all, especially when it came to this kind of drama. They could not wait to see it happen every day. Lin Ji nodded at Tan Lin and Li Xinqi before leading Senior Mo into the lecture hall. How rude. How could he not know the rules at all? Teacher Yang Ming is his senior. How could he do this? Jiang Fengfeng was the first to find this unacceptable. Of course, she didn't dare to say this out loud. She could only mutter softly out of indignation, but the people around her could still hear her. Tan Lin couldn't be bothered with Jiang Fengfeng anymore. She dragged Li Xinqi into the lecture hall. Jiang Fengfeng was so angry that her face turned pale. She suddenly thought of an idea to discuss Tan Lin and that new teacher, teacher Lin Jin. Everyone, please don't attend this new teacher's lecture. Jiang Fengfeng shouted at the crowd. Someone was puzzled. Why? Anyone can attend a public lecture. Why can't we? Jiang Fengfeng's words were indeed confusing. However, some of the smarter ones understood the reason and nodded silently. Jiang Fengfeng sneered. Jiang Fengfeng laughed coldly at this moment. You don't even understand this? You all saw it too. Teacher Yang Ming wanted to take up the new teacher Lin's teaching time. It was obvious that he wanted to put him in his place. This teacher Lin is hot-blooded and impulsive, so it's inevitable that he would act impulsively. He could obviously go and reconcile with teacher Yang Ming, or even admit his mistake in private, but he chose to tear up teacher Yang Ming's teaching timetable. This is a complete declaration of war. Let me ask, if you guys want to listen to this new teacher's lesson at this time, wouldn't you be offending teacher Yang Ming? At this, many students who were about to enter the lecture were stunned. It had to be said that what Jiang Fengfeng said made sense. One was a new young teacher, and the other was a veteran teacher, teacher Yang Ming. Let's not talk about whether or not these two sides should be on the same side. At the very least, we shouldn't offend either side. If they didn't attend the lecture, they wouldn't offend teacher Lin Jin. After all, it wasn't compulsory to attend the lecture. This was how the Academy's public lectures worked. But if they did attend, they would undoubtedly offend appraiser Yang Ming. Among the Academy's students and teachers, they were familiar with the personalities of many of them. Take Mr. Zhong, for example. He was an influential figure with a wide range of knowledge. Almost no one could rival him, and no one would question him. In terms of personality, Mr. Zhong was calm, humorous, and serious. He was the most respected person among the students. The other teachers had their own unique traits as well, and teacher Yang Ming was one of them. Arrogant, conceited, and unquestionable. This was teacher Yang Ming's greatest characteristic. Of course, he had every right to be arrogant. He was a veteran rank 4 beast appraiser and had published many books on beast appraisers. Many of his theories and ideas were acknowledged by even Mr. Zhong. Hence, despite teacher Yang Ming's eccentric temperament, many people respected him. If they had to choose between teacher Yang Ming and the new teacher Lin Jin, most of the students would choose the former. After all, the latter's qualifications and temperament were clear for all to see. With Jiang Fengfeng's actions, the students who initially wanted to attend the lecture no longer dared to do so. After that, it wasn't just Jiang Fengfeng. Many other students who had the same thoughts as her stood at the entrance, trying to dissuade those who wanted to attend the lecture. After understanding the situation, most of the students backed out, not daring to attend the lecture anymore. After all, the new teacher Lin wasn't the only teacher attending the public lecture. Even if they wanted to attend this teacher's lecture, they didn't have to do it today. If they missed a day, they could do it any other day. Of course, not all students were scared off. There were still some who were stubborn. A rank 1 beast appraiser in plain clothes who was slightly skinny listened to the situation. After giving it some thought, he insisted on walking towards the lecture hall. Hey, think about the consequences. Jiang Fengfeng frowned. She didn't expect there to be someone who didn't know what was good for him. Anyway, as long as the current interests are the same and there is no hatred, there is no problem in cooperation, not to mention making friends. Appraiser Lin, your lecture was so good that even I couldn't help but be immersed in it, Wang Xian said. While he sounded like he was trying to flatter Lin Jin, his words came from the bottom of his heart. Thank you. Having said that, Lin Jin asked Wang Xian if he saw a green-dressed girl entering or leaving the hall. To Lin Jin, he would definitely get an answer to this question, because there was only one entrance to the lecture hall. Wang Xian would be the first to notice anyone who entered or left. It was impossible for him to be distracted. A green-dressed girl? Wang Xian was stunned before shaking his head. No, no one entered or left just now. Are you sure? Lin Jin's brows twitched. His first reaction was that Wang Xian was lying. How could he not have seen it? Unless the man was like him and knew how to use camouflage. Camouflage? Lin Jin narrowed his eyes. Sure enough, Wang Xian nodded affirmatively and said he didn't see anything. Wang Xian had no reason to lie to him. This wasn't a big deal. Since he said he didn't see anything, he probably didn't. In that case, there was only one possibility. That green-dress girl also knew how to use camouflage to fool Wang Xian's eyes. Chapter 488. But why? Who was that girl in green? Why did she do this? She was only here to listen to the lecture, so why couldn't she just come in openly? Unless she wasn't here to listen to the lecture. Lin Jin's thoughts were running wild. In an instant, he thought of many things, including many conspiracies. Could she be an enemy? Lin Jin pondered. He had been thinking about this for a while now. Since he was new to Heavenly Jade City, he shouldn't have any enemies. But coincidentally, he discovered traces of the Demonic Appraisal Association. That night, Lin Jin killed Chu Qi, the noble young master, and his master, the century-old martial saint Yuan Dao. With this, he had become enemies with the Demonic Appraisal Association. Of course, they were already enemies from the start. The Demonic Appraisal Association must have found Chu Qi and the noble young master's corpses by now. They might even be suspecting Lin Jin. Lin Jin did this on purpose. Since he wanted to deal with the Demonic Appraisal Association, Heavenly Jade City was a good place. He didn't have to worry too much. Otherwise, if he wanted to hide his tracks, Lin Jin could just destroy the corpses. The reason he left the corpses behind was to tell the Demonic Appraisal Association that he was the culprit. That night, Lin Jin heard from Chu Qi and the others that the Demonic Appraisal Association was quite influential in Heavenly Jade City. The Black Emissary was hiding in Heavenly Jade City, and it was highly possible that he was someone from headquarters. Coincidentally, during the Rank 4 Beast Appraiser examination, Appraiser Yang Ming inexplicably targeted Lin Jin. Naturally, Lin Jin began to suspect Appraiser Yang's true identity. Could he be related to the Demonic Appraisal Association? Lin Jin wasn't imagining things. It was a possibility. Otherwise, how could he explain Appraiser Yang Ming's inexplicable hatred toward him? After all, they didn't know each other before this. Coupled with the sudden appearance of the mysterious girl in green, it was hard for Lin Jin not to speculate. Of course, these were all Lin Jin's thoughts. He didn't reveal them, nor did he mention them to anyone else. But now he had to find out what he needed to find out. Next, Lin Jin asked about appraiser Yang Ming's condition from the side. Wang Xin didn't think much of it. He could tell that there might be some conflict between appraiser Yang and Lin Jin. Since appraiser Lin was asking, he would answer whatever he knew. Come to think of it, it's quite rare. Appraiser Yang Ming wanted to take up this class, but he never showed up. This is clearly targeting him and making things difficult for him. Appraiser Lin, have you offended appraiser Yang Ming somehow? Wang Xin couldn't hold it in any longer and asked in a whisper,